Welcome into another round of GCR. I'm Stan the Fan, sitting in for Glenn Clark, who I guess the finals are tonight in the international, and I was incorrect yesterday. I called them the National Shuffleboard Championships, but they're the International Shuffleboard Championships.
These are world shuffleboard titles we're talking.
World shuffleboard titles that Glenn arranged, and it made sense that he was able to trade his entire vacation on the SSS Minnow, okay? So we wish Glenn nothing but the best on his final couple days of his vacation
voyage
out there.
Yeah.
His voyage. That's it. You know, life is a lot of times is like a voyage.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, yes, it is. I couldn't have said it better myself. Welcome aboard to, as I said, another round of GCR. We got a busy show today. It'll be topped off at 10:20 by Scott Garceau. At 10:45, the one and only Bo Smolka, who covers the Baltimore Ravens for PressBox and PressBoxOnline.com. At 11:20 from the Florida Prospects Report, and increasingly he'll be heard on the PressBox airwaves. Eric Garfield will join us to talk a little bit about Orioles prospects and about this opening of the new Dominican Academy that is taking place, I think, in 3 days. I think it is. I think it's the 16th.
That sounds right. I know it is. I know it is soon though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I know that Kobe Perez will be there, along with Oriole General Manager Mike Elias and the President of the country of the Dominican Republic. I don't know that Glenn will be there, though. Glenn was working on a deal to try and be there, but
yes,
I don't
Tuesday
think
the 16th. You are right.
Tuesday the 16th. All right. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about the impact that all of a sudden we've had, Griffin, we've had this incredible spate of high-end talent from the draft. Well, are we going to start to see a spate of, that's a big word for me, spate.
I think it's a good one. I think you should use it all show.
It's been the star of the show so far, the word spate. But seriously, this ever-increasing talent level coming out of the Latin American countries can pay some huge dividends, and we'll talk to Eric Garfield about that as well. And then at 11:40, the one, the only, the legend Josh Charles joins his uncle.
You know him?
Yeah, I know him.
Okay.
Apparently, you knew him a lot better than I do. He responded to you, did not respond to me.
Well, we can confront him about that. So
yeah, but we will have him. He was a good nephew the past 10 days. He was constantly checking in on me. He was worried about me. I guess that's a sign that I'm old. Anyway, Josh chimes in and gives his thoughts on the Ravens as we enter their bye week. Literally the bye weekend of games, and how he's feeling and who he thinks they'll play. Are you able to suss out who we will play? Are we going to play the winner of the Cleveland-Houston game?
To me, it feels likely with that, just because I don't think the Dolphins have a great chance of winning. I also don't think the Steelers have a good chance of winning. So to me, that makes it seem like the lowest seed will more likely than not come from this 4-5 Browns-Texans game.
Okay, so we would most likely host.
Yeah, I mean,
Cleveland.
Of course, those will be famous last words, and the Steelers will knock
and then
off the
the
Bills.
Dolphins could upset somebody because
they
were not a division winner.
Correct.
So in other words, the
2 and
Houston is higher because they're a division winner. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But along the lines, if Kansas City and Buffalo hold serve, the Ravens will be hosting
the winner of the first game tomorrow.
Right.
Houston, Cleveland.
And do we have any idea, would that be would you hazard a guess as to whether that would be next Saturday or Sunday?
I have no idea. I guess I would lean that the NFL might want to try to put the team with a bye on the Saturday, just so you have one less team playing on a short week.
Yeah.
But
that's how I would see it.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
they'll
maybe
do whatever.
make that game the night game,
Right.
Saturday night game.
Yeah, well, which is exactly what happened in 2019 when
Right.
the Ravens hosted the Titans, and
Yeah.
we don't talk about that too much anymore.
That was one of the most disappointing times ever leaving that stadium.
Yeah.
I remember being incredibly excited going into that ball game, and as the game wore on, it was just being disappointed. I think the two most disappointing Raven games that I ever attended were that game, more so than the Chargers, win that last Phillip Rivers season that they beat us. More so than that was that game against the Titans and the game against the Indianapolis Colts when Steve McNair was quarterback.
Quarterback.
The Baltimore Ravens. Yeah. So anyway, it's interesting. Yesterday we had Cornell Wilde on.
Cordell Woodland, yes.
Woodland on yesterday. Cornell Wilde was an actor back in the 50s. So
that would have been
you
nice
see
if
where
we had
my
him
mind,
too.
Yeah. He's long gone. He's not doing any shuffleboard games, broadcasts or anything. Cornell Woodland, of course, of the marrying kind of Woodlands.
Yeah, of course,
yes.
yeah.
His take was that Dalvin Cook wasn't going to be that big a signing for the Ravens. Reading a little bit more yesterday, and of course he didn't have the benefit of having been at Harbaugh's 215. Well, no, Harbaugh's
whatever media availability was yesterday, because I believe they had Dalvin speak yesterday.
Yeah, but today Harbaugh's talking at 215.
Yes.
But he didn't have the benefit of having heard Harbaugh yesterday. But apparently, at least the club, and there's so much this could be misinformation, misdirecting the opponents to spend time on another player. But apparently, they have sort of a vision that Dalvin Cook still got more than a little bit of fumes left in the tank.
Yeah, I mean, you can consider how much of that is smoke, as you mentioned. Just giving whoever they happen to see.
Was this his first year with the Jets, right?
Yeah, but he hardly played.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
and they stunk. Their offense was trash.
Breece Hall was very good, so they weren't really going to take any carries away from Breece Hall just for Dalvin Cook.
Was his going to the Jets? I know it wasn't the same situation. Who was the running back about 8 years ago, the Steelers, that left to go to the Jets?
Oh, Le'Veon Bell.
Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
And then he was never any good again. Wasn't Dalvin Cook pretty damn good last year?
Yeah, I mean, his first, 4 years, I guess, would this be his fifth season? I forget what year this is.
He's 28 years old.
Okay, so this is probably his fifth or sixth season. But yeah, all of his years with the
Vikings were top notch.
He was very good. I mean, he got a lot of volume, so that helps with the running back always in their production. Naturally, seeing less carries, he was not much of a factor for the Jets. So I mean, it's interesting. I tend to kind of lean more on what Cordell said. Melvin Gordon had the fumble issues his entire career, and we saw that immediately on display in the Steelers game. Obviously, it was pouring down rain. But this is something that it's not like it was a fluke for Melvin Gordon. We expect to see that. So I think we'll see.
I looked up Dalvin Cook. He's had 21 fumbles in his career.
I mean,
that's about 4 or 5
fumbles lost.
Actually, no, fumbles.
Okay. I mean, yeah, the same thing. It's the same thing. But but I think just. Even as Cordell mentioned, the communication issues or the handoff issues rather that mesh point with Justice Hill that we saw issues with early in the season. It seems like those have largely gotten taken care of, but I would still think that any Dalvin Cook we see will be very minimal. And would probably be just dependent on the health of Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. Knock on wood.
It's just interesting. There were quotes from Lamar Jackson saying he tried to recruit him to come.
I mean, he was a great player. He was great at Florida State, and he was great in his first couple of years with Minnesota. So, and he's been overall pretty durable. So, I mean, I think it's just kind of the nature of the running back position. You play 4 years, and once you get to that 28, 29, 30-year-old range as a running back, the tread has largely worn off.
The tread seems
unless
like
you're Adrian Peterson or Derrick Henry, it seems.
It seems that the tread is, but it's really more the fear of the tread that they don't want to give you a long-term contract. I didn't see until this year. I saw no sort of backtracking in his performance.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. I mean, yeah, the fear probably is a factor there, but it's no one wants to be the team that's like, we kept. I mean, look at Austin Eckler this year. Austin Eckler, everyone that watched any Chargers game, which I'm sorry if you did watch a ton of Chargers games, but any of the highlights that you saw of Eckler was, he just did not really have the speed that he once did, and that led to his production being down. He still saw a good bit of volume, but that led to his production being down, and it seems like likely won't see the Austin Eckler that we were used to, the last 4 or 5 seasons, and it's just because.
Well, it'll be interesting to see
trend.
if he goes to a team with a little bit more going on overall,
Yeah.
than they had this past year. Let's see, Dalvin Cook. I just want to see whether I'm missing something, and he had slipped past me.
What's you just looking at what his rushing
looking
stats?
at his yardage. In 2022, he played all 17 games. He had 1,173 yards, which isn't a great number. But this year he had 254 yards.
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, just wasn't used too much.
It says he played 15 games, but he only started one game, and he only attempted 67 carries.
Yeah, he only had 60 carries. So, I would not expect Dalvin Cook to have a large role in the Ravens offense.
Okay.
I mean, they had him speak at the podium yesterday. I think that's why everyone was talking about it, because he officially started practicing this, Wednesday,
right?
And he spoke to the media yesterday. So I think that's the only reason that we're, and it's a bye week. There's nothing we know. We know what the Ravens are at this point. We're largely confident in what we're going to see. The only thing was like, this it's a new toy kind of showed up.
Yeah.
And it's everyone wants to speculate what that might mean, what we might see from that. I don't think we'll see much more than typical third running back touches.
All right.
So.
I see from the comments that there might be discussing a larger role for him, but I could be misreading.
I would be shocked, just to bring in a guy strictly for the playoffs when you've had really good performances from Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. Outside the fumbles with Justice Hill,
right?
You've had really good performances, especially over the last month since Keaton Mitchell went down. So I would be surprised to see Dalvin Cook have an impact
the article
role.
I read, which was Jonathan Hensley's, Jameson Hensley's column. He's related. Jonathan Hensley's related to Cornell Wilde.
Are they really?
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, they're distant cousins. But Jameson Hensley, his piece was about the fact that the running backs, aside from Keaton Mitchell, are averaging like about 4 yards a run.
It's pretty good. I mean, you'd like to be, I guess, a little higher. Be
Yeah,
closer to 5,
averaging you'd like one of the three of them to be averaging like sort of what would you guess that Keaton Mitchell was averaging? 12, 14?
That seems a little high, but probably like 6 or 7. Like he was getting a lot of he was breaking off a lot of strong runs. But like Gus's averaged 4.9, 5 yards a carry, I think, his entire career. So I'm not too worried about the running back situation right now. And Dalvin Cook should only add depth. I think it's a depth add, and it's a win-win for everyone, because if something, God forbid, does happen to Gus or Justice Hill, there's a guy that that we've seen in the last couple seasons is very capable of getting a lot of touches and performing well.
He was Keaton Mitchell was averaging 8.4 per carry, double what they're getting out of it. Now again, that does not include Lamar or Jackson.
Right.
So they're getting more than 4 yards a carry by their runs.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Gus is having quite a down year compared. He'd averaged 5 yards a carry all 4 of the previous seasons.
Right.
This year he's down to 4.1.
Okay. We'll see.
We will see.
Hey, real quick because I know we're going to turn our attention to baseball with Scott Garceau momentarily, but the New England Patriots wasted no time in naming Gerard Mayo as their new head coach. And in fact, they circumvented having to go through the hiring protocol by having a succession plan that has been compared to the Ravens' succession plan with Eric DeCosta taking over for Ozzie Newsome. And it leads me to the speculation, because I don't know a whole heck of a lot about Gerard Mayo, but it leads me to believe that the Ravens, I would think, are going to make every attempt at keeping defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald here.
Yeah, I agree. I know you made the comment, right before the show started that it was very interesting that they did the same thing that the Ravens did with Eric DeCosta when they went from Ozzie Newsome to Eric DeCosta. It's just something built into the contract that they can kind of forego all the hiring process. They didn't have to go through interviewing X number of candidates. Since it was already built into the contract. I believe they did it last summer, I think is what it was reported as, and so they were able to just kind of easily slide Gerard Mayo right into Bill Belichick's head coaching
makes
role.
it very clear that they had a plan, and that plan, in fact, was not hatched 2-3 days ago. That plan was hatched last year.
Yeah,
When they extended his contract and put him in. It probably did not contain an exact out date that Bill Belichick was leaving after the 2023 season, because suppose he'd won 8 or 9 games, 10 games this year,
playoffs,
they wouldn't have fired him or something like that. But it was clear that he was, it was in play.
Yeah,
and Gerard Mayo's new head coach.
I just don't see something like that being put into play for Mike Macdonald, just because I still see John Harbaugh sticking around for probably at least another 5 years, unless he decides out of the blue that he's had enough and he's done everything that he's needed to on the football field and for the Baltimore Ravens. But that I would think Mike Macdonald is eager to become a head coach at some point, and the Ravens wouldn't want to get in his way of that. So.
Okay, you see it that way. I see a lot of chatter leaning toward that way, and I will say that I've known Steve Bisciotti for more than 20 years, and one of his business adages is expedite the inevitable, or it used to be 20 plus years ago. Which expediting the inevitable is eventually you're going to lose John Harbaugh. You got his best possible replacement right here. Don't lose him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an open-ended. I would think that it's after something like after 2 or 3 years, then you have the right to move on. But I think that reserving him and paying him a couple $1 million more a year to be your defensive coordinator to keep him in line.
I'm all for that. For that. I just don't see. I mean, Mike Macdonald is having head coaching interviews right now, like that. Like he could.
You know for a fact he's having them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. He's had multiple requests. I think the Commanders, the Falcons, I believe, or the Panthers, I believe. Okay. The Panthers and Commanders have both. Right. I think he already interviewed Munkin and McDonald. Actually, believe yesterday they said that they both interviewed.
So maybe his adage is no longer expedite the inevitable.
Do you want to remind everyone about maybe what's going on right now at Superbook?
Are you telling me that or suggesting that?
Well, you can remind somebody about something else if you'd like.
Now, use the promo code GlennClark23 or StanCharles23 when you sign up at Superbook, and you'll receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match, win or lose. Download the Superbook app or visit superbook.com to take advantage of this great offer today. And I'll tell you that PressBox's Project Game Day returns for the divisional round playoff matchup. After the game, join Glenn, Rita, Femi, Ian Badeja, KZ, Josh Charles, and the crew to discuss what went down. You can watch the game you can watch the show at facebook.com/PressBox Sports or at youtube.com/PressBox. On PressBox Online project. Let me do that again later on. I'm muffing it.
Gotcha.
And I'm embarrassed to muff it in front of my friend. Is he on with us?
He is ready to go.
Mr. Scott Garceau joins us right now. Scott, I was embarrassed by that read that I was giving. A mistake every other sentence.
You, Stan. so disappointed in
I
you.
know.
I set the bar much higher than that for you. But hey, it's spring training, right? We got time to work out the kinks.
No, it's not even spring training for me anymore. Hey, Scotty, I know you did Raven games for about 10 years in this town, and I know you follow them very carefully. I'm just curious. Griffin Bass, our esteemed producer here, tells me that Mike McDonald right now is already interviewing for coaching positions. You don't think that Steve Bisciotti would enter into the type of succession plan for Mike McDonald that he had for Eric DaCosta at this point?
That's always a possibility. I just don't. I don't think it's not like John Harbaugh is Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick age,
right?
And I think John's going to be here for a while. I haven't heard any hints that it's been a good run. I think I'm getting out. So I don't see anything like that. I mean, could you give him a big raise, make him assistant head coach? But does he want to wait 5 years, 6 years, 7 when he could be a head coach today somewhere? So. Yeah, it will be interesting to hear if there was any attempt made by the Ravens to say, "Hey, we think a ton of this guy." But sometimes you can't keep him. You got guys in the pipeline, and he's a young guy that a lot of people want. He might be a guy if Harbaugh goes to the NFL. He might consider going back to Michigan to be the head coach at Michigan as well, too.
I
think that. Yeah, I think there's a lot of people interested in him, and the fact that this defense has been so good this year. You know how that goes. We saw it with the Ravens' great defenses back in the early 2000s. How many of those defensive coaches got to be head coaches, right?
Yeah.
I think there are at least 4 or 5 because of that great defense, and they were associated with it.
And I guess you heard the news this morning that Gerard Mayo is the new head coach of the New England Patriots.
Yeah, I mean, I heard early, from the New England people that were speculating that he would be very high and probably top that list. So it looks like they had their guy and didn't wait and made the move.
Yeah, 24 years there for Bill Belichick. It's been a long time since they had to hire a head coach.
Yeah, you're right. I can remember, Stan, in 1999, the Ravens closed the season in a meaningless game at the old stadium up there, and we were talking to Will McDonough before the game, and he said, he goes, they got 4 or 5 guys today that could play, but I just think they don't want to. Minor injuries that normally, if the game meant something, they'd play, and I can remember the fans singing during the game, "Goodbye, Pete." It was Pete Carroll, right?
Pete Carroll.
It was the last game up there, and it was also. We were turning the millennium, right? We were going from 1999 to 2000. It was New Year's weekend, and they were worried about planes falling out of skies and computers going down and all that stuff. But I don't think it was a full crowd because it had been a rough season for the Patriots. We didn't know what the Ravens were on the brink of then. They'd never had a winning season, but I just remember that song, "Goodbye, Pete." They were kind of serenading him out, and then how history changed, right? Belichick comes in, and Carroll goes on to, have a run at Southern Cal, and then a pretty good run with the Seahawks, where he got the 2 Super Bowls and won one.
Yeah. It's an unusual week to lose to not necessarily lose a Bill Belichick permanently, but to lose a Saban, Pete Carroll, who's meant so much in the coaching community, and Bill Belichick all in 3 or 4 days is pretty staggering, I think.
And you know what? We notice guys our age, Stan, they're all about our age.
Yes, we do.
But guys that really had success, I don't think it mattered. We can get into a good conversation about Belichick. I think he's one of the greatest ever. I'm not sure I'm calling him the greatest coach ever, and there will always be that, but he didn't do anything in Cleveland when he didn't have Brady, and when Brady left New England, he didn't do anything there. He had 3 out of 4 losing seasons, and then was split. I kind of saw this coming. I think when you looked up and they were 4-13 this year, I didn't think Kraft would fire him. I thought, for what he did and won 6 Super Bowls there, they would find a way to part amicably, and who knows behind the scenes how much tension there was the last year or two between them. At one point, Kraft had to pick between Belichick and Brady, and he picked Belichick. And I'm not saying he was wrong,
right.
But Brady went on to Tampa, won a Super Bowl, and the Patriots have been downhill since Brady left. So it's never easy when you're picking.
It's interesting, Scott. I wonder if he had been proactive there and saying, you know what, I'm 70 years old 2 years ago, and said, I just want to coach. Let's bring in a football guy. Whether that might not have maybe given him a little bit more rope to get this thing turned around.
I agree. And then I think it's going to be interesting who hires Belichick. Do you want to – obviously you're getting a big name, a Hall of Famer, maybe the greatest coach ever in some opinions. But, you're not getting Mike McDonald where you could build something for 8, 10, 15 years. You're getting a guy that will probably be around for 3 or 4 years, will leave with the most wins ever. But if you don't have an established quarterback and you're trying to build something, is that really where you want to go? And I think some teams have already said, no knock on Bill, but we're not interested in him. It'll be interesting.
It's ironic we're talking. It's ironic we're talking football because I brought you on to talk about Orioles. But would you think right off the bat that Justin Herbert and the Chargers look like a pretty good destination for him with a coach in waiting hired?
If I'm Belichick, I mean, unless it's just in his mind, I want to coach another 2-3 years and leave as the winningest coach in NFL history. I want to go where there's a quarterback and I got a chance to win next year or the year after. I don't want to go to Atlanta maybe that doesn't have a quarterback, although, if they throw him all kinds of money and say we're going to do this, and draft this guy and trade for that guy, maybe he would buy into that. But I think you're on it. A place like San Diego where you have a Justin Herbert and you say, you know what, I can come in and do some things and we can win right now.
I didn't know the Chargers were still playing in San Diego.
I'm sorry.
That's okay,
Vegas.
Scott.
See, even I make mistakes, Dan.
That's unbelievable.
You're not the only guy that makes mistakes.
You're taking it easy on me. Hey, let's turn our attention to baseball. I think the fans are a little restless. We're hoping for more. But Mike Elias treating this offseason pretty conservatively and probably making a statement that, hey, we don't need to do that much. We're pretty darn good.
Well, I think that a couple of things. I think Oriole fans that have watched what Mike Elias has done since he walked through the doors should trust the guy. He's pretty good at what he does.
Yep.
That doesn't mean he's perfect. And I think we all look at the club and say, would really be good if they could add another starting pitcher, right? I don't think there's any glaring weaknesses on this team that won over 100 games. You say, oh, God, they got to get another center fielder. They need a third baseman. And you got some exciting things coming this year. Holiday, we watched the debut of Adley and Gunnar, and now Holiday's in the pipeline, top prospect in baseball, and sounds like there's a decent chance he might be here opening day, this 20-year-old kid that's dominated at every level. So there's that excitement. But, Kyle Gibson walked out the door, and he didn't get any Cy Young votes, but he made 35 starts and pitched 192 innings last year and was everything the Orioles hoped he could be as far as a leader in the clubhouse, great teammate, a mentor to the young pitchers. I'd love to see another veteran pitcher added to that group because, John Means is coming off Tommy John surgery, and you hope he can pitch like John Means has when he's been healthy for the Orioles. And Kyle Bradish was, fourth in the Cy Young voting last year. He had a phenomenal season. And a couple of guys that gave him innings, Dean Kramer, don't forget about him. He was solid throughout the year. And Grayson Rodriguez looks like he could be a star in the making. So there's some nice pieces there, but you'd love to see another veteran added to the group. Because, you look at every club, and at the end of the year, they've had 12 guys, 11 guys, 13 guys that made starts over the course of the season because players get hurt. They get sent down because they were ineffective for a month. A lot of things happen over the course of the year. You can never have too much starting pitching. Now, if teams are asking for the sun and the moon for Dylan Cease, you don't have to make that trade, right? And the other possibility is if they hold down the fort now, you got a midseason trade before the deadline. If you really need something then, there might be some guys available that you can add. So if it doesn't happen now, I get it. I understand why fans would be disappointed, but I got to trust that Mike Elias is hearing things that he doesn't want to give up, right? Well, how about is Basayo available? No, he's not available. We're not including this guy or that guy. I don't know who it is. Cowser, the Orioles.
I'm hearing Kobe Mayo is a stickling point everywhere.
Yeah, there's another guy.
Yeah.
I mean, would you like to give up on him and then 2 years from now he's hitting 38 home runs and you say, man, that's a bet. I do think the Orioles have some veterans that would be attractive to other teams, plus some, maybe not their top 2 or 3 prospects, but there's some other real good prospects in there that teams like the White Sox, who are kind of in a rebuild mode, would find attractive. So who knows where it's going, but I think the Orioles could use a starting pitcher. You like the Kimbrel move. He's probably not going to be Batista, but he was an all-star last year. And I looked at his numbers. He had 90-some strikeouts and 60-some innings. So he can still throw it by guys.
I'm curious if you think with how careful they're – and believe me, this payroll is going to inch close to $100 million this year before it's all said and done. But as careful as they're guarding expenditures, do you think if Bautista had been healthy and they didn't need to spend the money on Kimbrel, that they would have been a little bit more aggressive on Kyle Gibson?
Possible, but they may have also reached a point that said, you know what, it's the old Belichick, right? But part of Belichick's genius was he always seemed to give up on a guy a year or two
early.
Before other teams would.
Yeah.
And at Gibson at 35 or 36 through 192 innings last year, he's been a workhorse. I think I saw since 2017, Gibson is the top 4 or 5 in innings pitched in all of baseball. So do they think, well, there's a pretty good chance at age 36 that he's getting to the point where he might start breaking down? His ERA wasn't great last year. I think it was about 4.5, maybe above 4.5.
Yep.
But he did everything they asked of him. So yeah, I'm not sure on that. I'm not sure if it was payroll, if it was age, what it was, but I think they need somebody to kind of fill that role again this year.
Yeah, the longer this has gone on, I have a sneaking suspicion that they think that the combination of Bradish and Rodriguez is very special, or about to be very special. The area that I'm concerned with is, are Yanier Cano, Danny Colomé, are those guys going to be as good as they were last year? They were pretty special out of that bullpen last year.
They were, Stan, and you've been following this as long as I have. Don't you think almost every team you go in, and there will be 2 guys in that bullpen that you thought were going to have good years because they were pretty special last year.
Around you, yeah.
And they'll fall flat on their face. They'll have bad years. They might get injured. And then there will be a couple of other guys who seem to come out of nowhere that pitch, Cano last year, right?
Yep.
What a find he was. And then Webb shows up late. And what did he go, 20 innings or something without giving up a run? So bullpens seem to be a shot in the dark. You have a couple of guys, your closer, and set up guys that put year after year together. But there is a lot of ups and downs and surprises in bullpens. I think the Orioles are okay out there. Could they add somebody if there's a nice veteran sitting around that doesn't get the deal he thought he was going to get? Maybe you add somebody, but I think they could line up and, Cionel Perez.
And they also got Dylan Tate. They also got Dylan Tate, hopefully.
Dylan Tate,
coming back. Yeah. Okay.
And then do Wells and DL Hall slot out there? Are they going to be needed in the rotation? Those are a couple of guys with good arms that get outs too.
Scott, I wanted to go back to the rotation really quick. So we're thinking Cease probably isn't going to happen, and I don't know if that's because of price or the Orioles just aren't as interested as we thought they were. So I want to see maybe if there are any other guys that you thought might be out there. Like I'm looking, like Logan Gilbert's name keeps coming up. Like that would be great. I'm not sure why the Mariners would want to part ways with Logan Gilbert, but that's one that keeps coming to my mind. Or any like free agent guys. I think Jordan Montgomery is still out there as a free agent who like might be in that kind of Kyle Gibson range might be a little more expensive, might be a little too expensive for the Orioles. But I wanted to see if there were any guys that.
I think I kind of agree with you that Montgomery's numbers might be where the Orioles aren't going to go. I mean, that would be great. A left-hander, you add him. Stan and I, we talked before. Stan talked about a couple of the arms down with the Marlins. I
love Luzardo. Yeah, I love Luzardo.
Yeah, I think there's still the market isn't exhausted. It's been worked over a little bit. See where Stroman signed today. He's going to be a Yankee. But the market isn't exhausted. And I don't think it doesn't have to be a 1 or 2. It can be your 4 or 5 in the rotation. But a veteran who you can maybe pencil in for 140 to 170 innings, that's the guy I think they need, because it's an insurance policy. If you said right now they didn't add anybody, list them 1 through 5, I think that's a decent rotation. But, is Means going to hold up over a year? Is this guy going to have a sore shoulder and miss 2 months? That's why I'd like to see another veteran added to that group.
We're talking with Scott Garceau, who's getting ready for yet another season of Orioles baseball. It kicks off pretty soon. Scott, before we let you go, just your thoughts. You've been around the game, all these games, a long time. How impressed are you with the job that Brandon Hyde has done here over these past 5 years?
I think it's terrific, and I give Mike Elias a lot of credit. First, he hired him, and then he stuck with him. He stuck with them through just the worst times, right? Losing 100+ games, and so often we see that guy come in turmoil, rebuilding process, and he gets his brains beat out. I think I looked last year before last season, because what would the Orioles go, 83 and 79 the year before?
Something like that.
Yeah. And I said they would have had to do that for 29 consecutive years for Brandon Hyde to get his record back to 500. Well, they won over 100. They won over 100 last year. But you know what, Mike Elias, so often you see that guy get beat up, and then the next guy comes in and reaps the rewards.
Yep.
And I think Mike saw that Brandon was a solid baseball guy. I'd get asked a lot the first couple of years I was back doing the games. What do you think of Brandon Hyde? What do you think? Well, you think Brandon Hyde's a good manager? And you know what I tell everybody? When his team's as good as the teams he's playing, I'll be able to answer that question. Because, I mean, he was putting on basically a 4A lineup.
Yeah.
It was a whole bunch of AAA players those first couple of years, and then they'd add a veteran here or there for a year, throw in a veteran shortstop here, patch something out there. And Mike Elias came in and said, this is going to be painful, and it was. He wasn't wrong about that, but he said, we're going to build it right, and it's going to pay off. And now the last couple of years, I think we've seen the payoff. And I think Brandon's a good communicator with his players. He's a straight-up guy. He's very modern. He can play the analytics game, but he also is an old school baseball guy too. And I love that combination where there's still a lot of old school in him. He's a tough guy. I think his players see him fighting for him. I think the Orioles got a good manager, and he's the manager of the year, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that Mike stuck with him, and Brandon was able to see this thing through, and now he's got players that he can match up with anybody.
Hey, last thing I've got for you before we let you go is this. You alluded to it earlier about Jackson Holliday at 20 years of age. I think with this new rule that gives teams an incentive draft pick wise to have guys get out there and not manipulate them for salary reasons, I think Jackson Holliday really stands unless he falls flat on his face this spring. I think he's going to start the season, most likely, in my opinion, as the club's second baseman.
Yeah, I mean, I
could
nice
be wrong
part
on
is,
position, but, you know.
Yeah. Well, the nice part with that, Stan, is Gunner's a Gold Glove caliber shortstop or third baseman.
Yep.
So you have flexibility there. What I've heard about Holiday is major league ready shortstop, doesn't have Gunner's arm. Not many guys do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Machado Gunner kind of cannon, but maybe eventually second base is his best place if Gunner's playing shortstop or whatever. But He can play Major League shortstop right now, the reports I'm getting. Ben McDonald saw him he says the arm is a solid Major League shortstop arm, but it's not that cannon that Gunnar has right there. But yeah, how exciting is that? And just think last year, because of Gunnar, they got a second-round pick for that.
Yeah.
And guess where Gunnar was picked? In the second round.
Yep.
That's a pretty valuable choice, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, I love the fact, how often did we see, well, that guy, I thought this year, Holiday will start in the minor leagues. He'll start at AAA, and sometime around, mid-May, late May, if he's doing what he's done at every other level, he'll be up here. But Mike Elias, quick in the offseason to say, don't be surprised if he's here on opening day. And I think part of it is what you said, that you don't have to hide guys anymore for a month and a half, service time. And now you got a chance, if your guy finishes, in the top 2 or 3 for Rookie of the Year, you get compensated for that. That's a pretty good deal.
And I'll tell you one last thing about Holiday. I'm not saying this year at all, but down the road, I talked to Omar Minaya when the Mets thought they had a chance at drafting Holiday, before he zoomed up to be number 1. The Mets were drafting, I think, 8 or 9 that year. And I said, if he had to, could he play center field? He goes, in a heartbeat. So it's just he's got a lot of versatility there. Scott, I really appreciate your coming on, and I'm looking forward to competing with you again in the Crab Cake League. All right?
All right, buddy.
Good
chatting with you.
All right.
Take
Always
care.
a pleasure. All right. There's Scott Garceau, and let's give this a different try here. Pressbox's Project Game Day returns for the division round playoff matchup. After the game, join Glenn, Rita, Femi Ian-Badejo, KZ, Josh Charles, and the crew to discuss what went down. You can watch the show at facebook.com/PressboxSports or at youtube.com/PressboxOnline. Project Game Day is brought to you by A.J. Michaels, Superbook Sports, and HelpMyGamblingProblem.org. When we get back, we will be joined by Bo Smoka.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The latest edition of Pressbox is available now, and it's our very special annual Best Of issue. On the cover, we celebrate Orioles manager Brandon Hyde as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year, and the Orioles as our Team of the Year, with Stan the Fan Charles and Glenn Clark sitting down with Hyde to discuss his role in creating the culture that defined the Orioles' magic season. Also inside, we recognize the top people, performances, and moments of 2023. Pressbox is available for free at over 500 area locations, including 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can always find the entire edition, as well as the best daily coverage of the Ravens, Terps, and O's at PressboxOnline.com.
Hey Ravens fans, looking for the perfect new game day brew? Get a Guilford, Baltimore's finest craft beer during the next home game at the bank. That's not all. Gather your flock next home game and check out Guilford Hall Brewery's brand new bar, the Gilly Nest, located near Section 505. No tickets? No problem. Enjoy all Ravens games all season long at our restaurant and brewery in Station North. Guilford Hall Brewery, European tradition, Baltimore charm.
Sure, Glenn may be in his 40s now, but he looks just as good as he ever has, and he's still as sharp as he ever was. And I say both those things without even a shred of irony. Find out for yourself right now by watching the show at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today. All right. We're about to be hooked up, hopefully, with our friend Bo Smolka, who is making his way back from Indiana to Maryland on a train. Are you there?
Bo's not with us yet, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, yeah, as you mentioned, he's coming back right now. His service might be a little spotty, so I'll try to give him a try in another minute or so here. And
Okay.
We'll see if we can try to contact Bo. If not, we will survive. We will adapt, and we will carry on.
We'll advance and survive.
Survive in advance.
Survive in advance.
Yeah, there it is.
That's what
There
we'll
it
do.
is. Yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to remind everybody, because this is kind of big news here. It's a special thing that really got its root about 6 months ago when we did a cover story on the late Tony Siragusa and the efforts of his children, Sammy, his daughter, and his son, who I apologize, I don't know his first name, but to continue Tony's Goose Flight Foundation, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But I just wanted to, it's a big deal because this week, PressBox is urging you to drink a beer or two in honor of Tony Siragusa starting Monday, January 15th. And actually, it's going to be available probably tomorrow or Sunday at some of the locations. Guilford Hall Brewery is releasing Goose Flights, a delicious lager to support Goose's medical transportation jet company. As many of you know, the Goose Flight Foundation, now run by Tony's kids, charitably flies needy patients to emergency treatment. You can buy Goose Flight lager exclusively at Glory Days Grill or Guilford Hall Brewery. $2 off of every purchase goes to the cause. Raise a glass to Tony and support this great foundation. Go to PressBoxOnline.com to learn all about it. Toast the late Tony Siragusa with Goose Flight Lager from Guilford Hall Brewery and support the Goose Flights Foundation mission. Available starting this Monday at Guilford Hall Brewery and at all Maryland Glory Days Grill locations. Go to PressBoxOnline.com to learn more. All right. One thing before we attempt to get in touch with Mr. Smolka again is Maryland got a much-needed win in the Big Ten last night. It was a home game against Michigan. Maryland improved their record to, I believe it was 10-6 overall. Maryland is not an easy watch by any means for sports fans out there. They shoot the ball very poorly. They defend pretty well. They'll rebound pretty well. But this is an ugly team to watch, and I wouldn't expect Griffin if you asked Coach Kevin Willard, boy, do you get really depressed watching this team? He's going to go, that's my guys, those are my guys. I'm out there coaching. Yeah, I'm happy to have them back, but that is one ugly team to watch.
Yeah, it is certainly, they have not really lived up to expectations. Their three freshmen have not really performed anywhere near
terrible. I mean, weren't they like a top 15 recruiting class? Those three guys.
That sounds right to me. I mean, but yeah, there were very high expectations for all of them. They have all shot. I mean, you mentioned it. It seems like the only guy that can shoot on a consistent basis right now is Jameer Young. And so when a team takes him away, they fare pretty well. It was, I mean, it's hard to call it an impressive win, but, they were down by, 12 at halftime?
No question about it. I was shocked. I went to take a shower, and all of a sudden I saw, 20 minutes later, Maryland was up 58-51 with 4 minutes to go. I go, they got this, and then they didn't score a point for 3 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's kind of.
It's a work in progress.
It's pulling
to
teeth.
say
It's like pulling teeth.
It is.
Watch Maryland play now.
The late great Paul Baker. I don't know if you know that name, but he was a local basketball legend as a coach and a commentator. He used to call certain type of games a taffy pull. And that game last night was a taffy pull. It was just and what was really frustrating, I know they don't have a world of shooting talent, but Dante Scott last year, the last 2 years, was a pretty darn good shot from outside.
Yeah, it felt that way. I mean, it felt like he would miss. I mean, obviously most basketball players miss more than they make, but it would feel like he would miss a lot of shots. But it felt like when you needed it, he could come through
with a big
shot. With a big shot, he did. To his credit, the second half last night he did start hitting some shots when they needed.
But last night in that period I'm talking about, when they really had the game where they could have put it on ice. All of a sudden, they had two or three possessions where they didn't get a shot off.
Yeah, it was tough to. I know Robbie Hummel mentioned it on the broadcast. I think why are you going to have two guys? Because what they had, Jordan Geronimo and Deshaun Harris-Smith.
Geronimo looked like the concept of shooting the ball was something he'd never heard of.
He took one shot last night.
Yeah.
Jordan Geronimo did.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been it has been tough. It's also, I mean, they're playing with essentially a 6-man lineup right now. Because they had 5 guys play 30 minutes, and then Geronimo played 18. Everybody else played 4 minutes from Noah Batchelor.
Do you think
John Lamoth played 2 minutes last night?
Do you think this is as much a net result of poor recruiting, or the NIL function down at Maryland in basketball terms has not really kicked into gear yet?
Maybe that's a fair point. I didn't really think about that too much.
They weren't even in the
because
hunt.
On paper,
that guy, what's his name, that's at Kansas that went from Michigan,
Hunter Dickinson. Yeah.
Hunter Dickinson. He would have been a perfect player for Maryland last year, at least to be in the hunt for.
Right. Yeah, and there was it was pretty clear there was going to be almost no shot that Maryland was going to land him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's a fair point because their big transfer was Jordan Geronimo, I guess, who came from Indiana, I think. There was another guy, Chance Stevens. He would have came from Marymount, I believe. He got injured in the preseason. He's not going to play at all this year.
Right.
So you would have assumed that he would have helped a little bit, in terms of the shooting. But yeah, I mean, it's just kind of the combination of all 3 of these touted freshmen that they had come in, and none of them have really stepped up to this point. I guess Deshaun Harris-Smith did finish with 10 points. The guys kind of pulled it together in the second half last night, which credit to Kevin Willard for that, for making the adjustments they needed to make. They stuck with the full court press because Michigan looked like they were cutting up that press pretty good in the first half. In the second half, it started to pay dividends for them.
All right. You're listening to the Glenn Clark Radio Show. It's appearing like we're not going to be able to make our connections with.
Yeah, Bo's just in a bad area right now, and we will.
Indiana's a bad area. The whole state, the entire state, moving east is in a bad area for a while. If you get through Ohio. When you get back to certain parts of Pennsylvania, you're back in civilization.
Yeah, definitely. Ohio, try to avoid at all costs.
Personally. So what are we going to talk about? Are we going to talk about the Yankees signing Marcus Stroman?
We can talk about that. I mean, does that move mean anything to you?
Look,
does it change anything?
It's not a game. We don't know if it's a game changer. I mean, he was pretty darn good his first 80, 90 innings last year.
If the Orioles had made this move, we would have.
I would have been
pretty happy.
I would have been reasonably happy with a Marcus Stroman. Yeah. I would have thought that would. I thought that would have a chance to be much better than Kyle Gibson in terms of performance. Although, again, what Scott Garceau presented to us, Kyle Gibson at this point in his career, what you get out of him is pretty much a given. what you got out of Marcus Stroman last year was two different pitchers. First, 3 months of the season, I think he had a 2.2 ERA last year.
Stroman.
Stroman.
Yeah, that sounds.
And then the second half of the year, I think it was in the fives or something like that. Wasn't even the same pitcher. So you wonder, he threw 140 innings for the Cubs last year. I'd question whether the Yankees will get that much out of him this year.
And yeah, I mean, it seems like I mentioned Jordan Montgomery with Scott, and it seems like this deal, the Stroman deal, might be similar to what we'd see with the Montgomery deal. And do you see any chance that the Orioles would offer a 2-year, $36 million, $37 million contract
to Montgomery?
Yeah, to Montgomery
that won't even be in the Montgomery or who? I'm sorry.
Or anyone in that.
I don't think there's anyone out there.
That's just too high.
I don't think there's anyone out there that would accept that. I mean, I take it back. There's nobody that I would want. Yeah, if I could get Montgomery at 2 years at $36 million, he's hunting in the 175 to $200
he
million.
Wants a massive. Okay.
Yeah, he's pitched well enough. He pitched well enough in St. Louis to put
really
some
well
egg
down
on.
The stretch
He put some egg on the face of Brian Cashman, and you wonder if part of that whole deal there, where that he's playing such hardball with the Yankees, is, hey, you had me, you had me at hello, and you kind of blew it, and they're afraid to sort of get egg on their face by going backwards and paying somebody. So they are apparently at least more than kicking the tires. They've made an offer to Blake Snell. It's not an offer that's been accepted at this point, but there's a good chance that they will sign one of the two of them. Now, I was listening to Eduardo Perez today on the leadoff spot with Steve Phillips, and he's of the opinion that the Cubs are going to sign Jordan Montgomery, that they're going to come and swoop in and take Montgomery. I would think that Snell then would be between the Phillies, the Yankees, and the Giants. That's who I think. And the Angels are there, but the Angels are there for like sort of fodder to raise the price on the other teams.
Let me just start throwing out some of these older free agents out there that
Yeah, you can.
Hyun-Jin Ryu, how do you feel about him?
How many innings did he pitch last year? About 75 innings?
That may even be on the high mark. I know he definitely was dealing with injuries.
Well, he was coming back from Tommy John's surgery.
And he's now 38.
8?
Yes, he will be 37 in March. So this will be his age 37 season. He pitched 52 innings.
52
last
innings.
Season.
If I could sign him to a 1 year, $5 million with $5 million in
Spotrac is valuing him around $8 million right now.
Yeah.
So
I would not even like to give up 8 guaranteed. I'd give him 5 with some incentives, makeable incentives, like first 75 innings you get another $2 million. $2 million. I'd let him make $10 million if he makes the mark. But to give him 8 and guarantee it, and then move on and say, well, we.
Yeah, he probably isn't going to be worth it unless you moved him to a bullpen role, just because the most innings he's pitched in a season is 182. That was his All-Star season in 2019. Then there was 169 innings in 2021 and 126 in 2017.
Right.
Those are the 3 times he's gone over 100 innings pitched. So
he's just not. Look, if Mike Elias put a spin on it and signed him and said, hey, and they knew something that, hey, he's going to be back to where he can give us 140 innings, those innings are potentially of a high quality. I wouldn't scoff at it, but he's not somebody I'm really shopping for. He's not like a secret guy that I've got out there that I've had hidden away.
Right.
And I don't think he's hidden away on Mike Elias's shopping list either.
Alex Wood is out there.
I've always been an Alex Wood fan because
today's his birthday.
Today is his
Yeah,
birthday.
today is his birthday.
Is there any chance you could get him on the show? Or is he
his
traveling with Bo Smoka?
There's a good chance he might be.
He might be.
Just out there in Middle America, uncontactable.
Right, uncontactable. He's an interesting guy, Alex Wood. He's always had a very sneaky, herky-jerky delivery that I find difficult to pick up, and I would think as a hitter, he'd be hard to pick up. But he seems like he's got that little shuttle going on between the Dodgers and the Giants, and it wouldn't shock me if he's not an insurance policy at $5 million for the Dodgers this year, before all is said and done.
I skipped over Julio Urias and Clayton Kershaw.
Clayton Kershaw. I would, of course, have deep interest in Clayton Kershaw. I'd need to know more about when he's coming back, and I hear that's roughly mid-season. You know, if I'm looking for somebody that could give me 75 to 90 innings next year of a high quality and perhaps be ready to give you a big postseason, you know, meaning that you're not resting all of your chips in the basket, you know, on Clayton Kershaw to be great, but to be part of something, playoff time, I would be excited to have Clayton Kershaw in a Baltimore Oriole uniform. I don't think it will happen because I think if he leaves the Dodgers, which I don't think he will, it'll be the Texas Rangers that would scarf him up.
That sounds about right.
Is there anybody else out there that interests you?
Mike Clevenger is available.
Yeah. I have more concerns about Clevenger, the person, than I do Clevenger, the pitcher. I like Clevenger, the pitcher, what he could bring you. He would be a sneaky guy to me. If Mike Elias suddenly announced a 2-year, 1-year deal for $11 or $12 million and an option for a second year at, say, $16 million, Mike Clevenger is not a bad get.
Carlos Carrasco.
I'm not interested in Carrasco at this point.
And I mean, this is just kind of where we are at this point. You know, there's not. It's going to be a guy where I guess if the Orioles sign one of these guys, you're going to be like,
and
all
I
right,
didn't mean
good,
to. I didn't mean to ignore you on Julio Urias.
No,
I'm not interested in him. I'd probably have, and I know this is because I predicted he would never pitch again in Major League Baseball. You throw me, and you got all the legal problems out of the way, because I understand a little bit what went on with Trevor Bauer. He made a terrible decision that somehow, because something might be technically legal and consensual, that's going to fly as a Major League Baseball player. But that's something that people like he and Aaron Rodgers get away with all the time. You know, I mean, you look at this Aaron Rodgers thing. It's absolutely absurd that he can't say the words, say something to the effect, look, Jimmy Kimmel took a shot at me. I pissed me off, so I've taken shots at him before. I crossed the line here with this thing. I in no way meant in any way, shape, or form that he was really on some type of list as a pedophile in the Jeffrey Epstein. And instead, he's got this the same way he handled the thing with the vaccine thing that he was right about how he said it. Did you have any thoughts yesterday on the fact that on Wednesday, what's his name, the host of the show,
McAfee?
Guy making all the money, Pat McAfee,
making all the money,
said he wasn't going to come on the show again this year, and sort of said, I'm kind of glad at that. And then the next day, he's on the show again.
Yeah, I mean, I think he only had him on for like a minute or so. I think that was
really?
I think he only had him on. Like, he literally was like, "Oh, what do you think about Bill retiring or not retiring? You know, parting ways with the Patriots." And
and then he's moved on.
Yeah, then moved on. And then just said, "All right, thanks, Aaron." Like, I think he just wanted to be like, "See, no, we can have him on whenever we want." I guess was his point. I don't know. Right. Help him complete the get him one step closer to completing the AL East carousel. Corey Kluber.
Not interested in Mr. Kluber. Loved him as a pitcher in his heyday. He was a great
last season. 2022, he pitched 160 innings with Tampa. And
what was his ERA in
Tampa? Or last year he was terrible.
Last year he was with the Red Sox.
Yeah, he was terrible. 7.04 ERA in 55 innings.
That's not good.
No, it's not.
Yeah. What was it the year before?
With Tampa, it was 4.34 in 164 innings.
That's Kyle Gibson.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Maybe even
Would-
more innings.
Can I tell you something? Now that you mention it, if he came into camp on a minor league deal, but you were honest with him. Look, we don't know. We got to see what you got, and he was going to
Something flares
make
up with one of your starters. Yeah.
Yeah, he wouldn't be bad organizational depth because again, his upside now is being Kyle Gibson, and that's not a great upside, but it's not a horrible upside.
I'm essentially just saying. I mean, these are all the same guys at this point. James Paxton.
Just you question. You got James Paxton on the team and John Means. Why do I need another one?
Michael Lorenzen.
I have some interest in Michael Lorenzen. Again, they point to the fact that he threw the no-hitter in Philadelphia,
and
then he was awful after that. But I think he's decent. I'll tell you though, what I was alluding to with Scott. If I had, say, $10 million to spend on pitching this year, I'm still looking at Robert Stevenson out there. Again, Scott can say what he wants, and everybody can say what they want. I'm not concerned that Danny. I'm not of the opinion that because he had a good year last year, that Danny Colomé is going to come back and have that type of season. I'm not convinced that Yennier Cano is going to be anywhere near what he was last year. And I think the one area that this team, while Stevenson and D.L. Hall are not closers, I think that next year, if you added a Robert Stevenson to the team, you'd have guys that could come in on those days where you realize you need the win, but you need to give Kimbrel a blow.
Yeah.
Hall and Stevenson could give you saves. I think Stevenson would be invaluable to the team next year.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely be open to any sort of reliever depth or any sort of reliever move that they make. I mean, we've seen it. They pull these guys out of thin air. Danny Colomé, Yennier Cano, Jacob Webb. We talked about it with Scott. You know, like it is. I am at the point where I would trust anything that the Orioles decide to do in terms of.
I'm not real keen on. I have to admit, I liked Webb early in the year. I picked him up when he was with the Angels on my fantasy team. I had him for about 3 weeks, and all of a sudden I went, he scares me a little bit.
I don't even necessarily mean Jacob Webb makes it to May, but I would assume they can
I
find
hope
another
he
guy
doesn't
that
make
they
it
can.
to April. I hope Brian Baker does not make the team this year.
But my point being, that I'm willing to ride with them. A guy for 2 months, and then kick him out, and you find another guy that you can ride for a month and a half.
I really have come around to the opinion, and look, I could be wrong, and maybe that's part of the waiting game that Mike Elias is playing. That hopefully that Chris Getz in Chicago with the White Sox or Peter Bendix get tired of get nervous that they're not hearing from Mike Elias, and suddenly we get a trade for Dylan Cease or Jesus Luzardo. I'm of the opinion that the Orioles have kind of felt out the price on those players, and they're not comfortable paying it.
Yeah. We're pretty much to the bottom. I mean, we're guys that aren't going to scratch the rotation. Cueto, Greinke, Rich Hill are out there.
I've loved Rich Hill for much of his career. It's a shame that he wasn't better when he was an Oriole. He was transitioning into really learning how to pitch because he became a really solid pitcher for the Red Sox, A's, and Dodgers, everybody but the Orioles. But have no interest in him at this point in time.
Last two, Jake Odorizzi, Zach Davies.
Glenn has pointed out the problem with Davies is he's not a great guy.
Yeah, not a great guy. Same thing, not like legally, nothing. He's not in any legal issues.
Yeah,
it seems,
just
but
moral questions. Have no interest in Jake Odorizzi at this point. Too sketchy, his body of work now. That's like a right-handed James Paxton on steroids almost.
So, I mean, there's at this point, the rotation seems to be what we think it's going to be with the Orioles.
I think there's a pretty good chance.
Unless it's a trade.
And I would agree. I would agree with the couple people we had on, Kyle Gibson being one of them, John Smoltz being one of them. I think Tyler Wells now goes into spring training as a starting pitcher. That the club is.
I would be happy with that.
The club is sitting there going, "Hey, we made decent offers. We were willing to give up a nice chunk, but we've got Tyler Wells who can give us. We know we can get through
innings.
the first 75 to 100 innings out of him of highfalutin starting.
They'll just take those 100 innings, and when they get to that benchmark, they'll just figure it out from there.
Yeah, maybe at that time, Cade Povich or somebody else in the organization has cropped up.
So your number one trade target would be Jesus Luzardo.
My number one trade target would be Luzardo.
I say go get Logan Gilbert. Figure it out. If Logan Gilbert's out available,
I don't see why he'd be available.
He keeps popping up. I mean, everybody that talks about top trade.
Well, I would love to have Logan. There's no question I would put Logan Gilbert higher than Dylan Cease.
Yeah.
Luzardo's my number one guy, but I'd be very happy if all of a sudden they shocked us all and signed Robert Stevenson, which unfortunately I don't think they will, but he's been sitting out there an awful long time. Jordan Hicks is supposedly the Astros and the Yankees are honing in on those guys.
Yeah, I wouldn't be against Jordan Hicks. I'm not sure how expensive he'll be, but yeah.
He's going to be about $15 million a year, I think.
Yeah, it seems like they
probably 3 or 4 years
won't go higher than what they already did with Kimbrel.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and take a break. We can continue this conversation on the other side.
All right, we're going to do that. Right now, I'm going to tell folks about the Toyota Tacoma. It comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Toyotas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Hey Ravens fans, looking for the perfect new game day brew? Get a Guilford, Baltimore's finest craft beer during the next home game at the bank. That's not all. Gather your flock next home game and check out Guilford Hall Brewery's brand new bar, the Gilly Nest, located near Section 505. No tickets? No problem. Enjoy all Ravens games all season long at our restaurant and brewery in Station North. Guilford Hall Brewery, European tradition, Baltimore charm.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Why bet with the big boys this football season? Instead, try your hand with the local book, Superbook Sports, this fall. Superbook Sports is the book next door. Just a dedicated team of the best odds makers in Las Vegas, making sure you get the best prices and parlays anywhere. And now, Superbook will give you a bonus of up to $250 when you sign up and wager on the same day and use the promo code GlennClark23, GLENNCLARK23. So bet with the best and use the promo code GlennClark23 this football season with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Jeremy Kahn here. The ultimate sports betting experience in Maryland is at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook. Join me at either location in Canton or in Towson and place your bets in person and be a part of the action. It's the best in-class sports wagering experience, complete with the ultimate TV package, ensuring you can catch every game all day, every day. Their state-of-the-art facilities bring Las Vegas energy right here to Maryland just in time for postseason football. So visit the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbook in Canton and Towson and elevate your game day experience and hang out with me to bet, watch, and win at the Turtle.
Make sure you tuned in every Tuesday for PressBox fantasy football analyst Joe Serpico to get you ready for your Waiver Wire Wednesday, brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel. And if you have other fantasies you want fulfilled, subscribe to Glenn and Jeremy Kahn's OnlyFans page at Wait, are people supposed to know about that?
We are back on GCR. Stan the Fan, Griffin Bass handling the ones and the twos here. That means he's producing and pushing all the right buttons. And joining us from his home in Bradenton, Florida. He's from the Florida Prospects Report, and he'll be doing some stuff with PressBox all summer long, and in the weeks leading up to the season. We're being joined right now by my friend Eric Garfield. Eric, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Stan. Good morning.
Good morning to you, and I thank you for working with us. It's been a rough couple 10 days for me getting over COVID, but hopefully by next week we'll get ready to start on those Thursday night Zooms, all right?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. How you doing? Good?
I'm very good. It's a little chilly in Friday, or it's a little chilly in Sarasota, but I'm following a lot of high school basketball, so there's 2 games for me to choose from tonight.
Are they local games?
They are local, Sarasota and Bradenton, and spending this year not coaching, kind of just watching. There's a lot more talent down here than I realized. A lot. Some of it is really very exciting.
Do you think Kevin Willard realizes it? Is it that kind of talent, like national kind of talent?
As a matter of fact, yeah, most of the upperclassmen are probably not Big Ten types, but there's more than a handful of 9th and 10th graders that could play in the Big Ten. Certainly look like Power 5 types, even though they're 14 and 15 years old.
Okay, that's a good way to handle some idle time for you down there.
I agree. That's why I'm doing it.
Yeah, and get knowledgeable in that field as well, because you certainly know the baseball prospects pretty well. It's been kind of a fluke circumstances that led to that because you were a businessman in Sarasota, Florida, running the Baltimore Snowball Company, which was the Oriole concessionaire for snowballs, and you had your own little, bricks and mortar place, and you're doing a lot of parties, and then you had that terrible accident, and it led you into a whole different world. Tell us a little bit about how you transitioned into just starting to follow all this minor league talent down there, and the timing couldn't have been better because it wasn't like you were following the God, I want to use a bad organization. The
Athletics.
The Athletic.
Colorado Rockies.
Yeah, the Rockies. Okay, it wasn't like you were following the Rockies. You were following a team that was about to set its course on being the number one farm system in baseball.
My early stages of my physical recovery after the accident, there was not a lot that I could do. And I am one of those exercise people like Baltimoreans would know, like Mark Viviano, someone that's always running, someone that's always moving, always using their time to exercise. So I'm one of those people. Not being able to do it was very frustrating. My home in Sarasota was very close to the Orioles spring training stadium, and my doctor said if I wanted to, I could walk there. So I walked there several times a day. And one day I saw Gunnar Henderson and Darryl Hernandez in the infield, and I was like, wait a second, these guys are very special, and that's kind of what started me paying attention at a moderately obsessive level to the Orioles system.
So let me start with a potential negative. I'm still a believer in Cole Irvin, but you mentioned Darryl Hernandez. Is that going to go down as one of the worst trades in club history? I mean, is he going to be a really solid major league player for the A's?
I don't think the Orioles are going to win that trade. I do think that Darryl is going to play in the major leagues and have a career. I do actually think that Cole Irvin is going to somehow contribute this season and potentially next. But I really think the trade that's going to end up looking worse is Jack Flaherty for 3 prospects to the Cardinals. The Orioles didn't get a lot of use out of Flaherty at all, and the Cardinals have 3 chances to turn that trade into a productive player. I think they're going to with at least one of them. Drew Rom, Zach Showalter, or Cesar Prieto. That's a little bit worse.
Which guy are you most concerned is going to put egg on Mike Elias's face? Is it the young pitcher Showalter?
It is. Yep.
Yeah.
I see him before he really changes and goes through from his late teenage to adult growth spurt. He already looks like he's got an outstanding pitcher's frame, a very, very athletic, repeatable delivery, and great stuff. I would not have traded him for Jack Flaherty under any condition. It looks like Showalter was an excellent draft pick.
Yep.
And the Cardinals system is going to turn him into something good.
Okay. Well, look, not every trade's going to work out well, and I agree with you. I think Cole Irvin's going to be a little bit of a surprise this year. I think I'd feel comfortable projecting him to win somewhere in the 8 to 11 wins and give the club maybe 130 innings, 125 innings, somewhere in there, that he's going to be a useful piece of the rotation this year. We'll see.
I agree with that. I agree. I think we're going to get something out of him and be able to use him this year and potentially next year.
Hey, let me throw you a question that I wouldn't have had when I woke up this morning for you, but it's become kind of, I wouldn't say Mike Elias will never go public on the fact that he's a little pissed off at Chris Getz, the GM of the White Sox, or Peter Bendix because of the asks, because they have the right to ask for whatever they want to ask for. I get the sense that he sort of said, you know what, guys, we've given you the offers we're willing to talk about. If you want to get back to us, fine. If not, we'll make do. And I'm looking at a couple options midsummer this year. Chase McDermott, Povich, what's Povich's? Cade Povich, Chase McDermott, and Seth Johnson. What are the chances at least one of them could give the club this year, say, 60 to 80 innings in the major leagues of quality baseball?
Well, that's a very specific question, and I agree that 1 or 2 of them could do exactly that. I think the innings threshold that you laid out is probably doable by all 3 of them, which is a good sign for the Orioles and their system. But one of them is going to emerge from the group. I have no rhyme or reason. I would say maybe Seth Johnson, who was as low as the FCL last year. He would be the one that I would probably choose. But when the Orioles system gets criticized for having a lack of pitching, those are the names that come to mind first.
Interesting, because I see, I know, Seth Johnson and McDermott both acquired, and we'll give Mike Elias we'll give him his chops when he deserves them, and we'll give him a bop, a negative bop or two. Absolutely. When he makes a trade like he did the Flaherty deal. But Seth Johnson and Chase McDermott both came back to him in that Trey Mancini deal, which obviously, we're big Trey Mancini fans. We don't hear his name even mentioned this year coming back. So the Orioles really actually got a lot out of that deal, didn't they?
Absolutely. And like you just said, being a GM or being a front office executive in baseball is pretty hard because your mistakes are magnified and your successes are kind of expected. It seems that Trey almost fell off a cliff and his major league career is undetermined, and that basically happened as he got to Chicago. So, for the times that we'll criticize and question Mike Elias, for this one, he deserves a pat on the back. And going back to your question about the White Sox and dealing with them, I really don't know how Elias and the front office is going to handle any particular negotiations, but I do know that they started talking about Cease last season during the trading deadline. So there's certainly a possibility that our front office is kind of exhausted with the pace and the lack of moving forward. So they might have said, you know what, you're not getting our good prospects, you're not getting our bad prospects. The Cease market is what it is because of you, and you can deal with another organization. I hope that's not true, but it's certainly possible.
Well, keep in mind one thing, that when we started dealing with them, they still had a different general manager and team president in command. Now they've got Chris Getz in his first year as GM, and I'm sure he wants to he's done a lot of sensible, small little moves that I actually like. But when I started hearing that the Orioles were willing to talk about Cowser and Kjerstad, and he kept throwing the name Kobe Mayo in, that's where I'm parting company. 2 years may seem like an eternity to me, but I'm not giving up Kobe Mayo in a trade where my likelihood of re-signing that guy for a 5-year deal after that don't appear to be great at this point in time.
And Stan, that is one of the reasons why you and I are boys. We are not trading Kobe Mayo for anything less than a truly elite number one. And Dylan Cease is an excellent pitcher. I don't want to take a shot at him, but in terms of value, I'll take Kobe Mayo's actual career or the beginning of it over a handful of starts and a playoff possibility of Dylan Cease. That's not going to work with GM Eric. Nope.
Hey, Eric, Griffin, is nice to meet you. Would you trade Kobe Mayo or some sort of package for Logan Gilbert?
Okay, now we're getting towards the possibilities where it's slightly more acceptable. I certainly want Gilbert's career more than Dylan Cease's next 2 seasons and potentially more. But again, depending on what the other pieces are, I'm going to bet on Kobe being the Orioles' next dynamic, either third baseman, first baseman, or as we'll see a little bit this year, maybe even a corner outfielder. He's one of the prospects that I've trusted and believed in for a long time, and he's given me no reason not to. On the other hand, Gilbert is a prospect that I most certainly trust, and I have friends that work in the Seattle organization. They're very, very excited about him. It's close, but it's not enough. Good question, though.
What do you think of the player that the Orioles drafted number 1 last year, Enrique Bradfield Jr.? Do you think his speed really sets him apart and makes him a unique player?
Ooh.
Or is it too soon? Or is it too soon for you to tell?
No. I've seen plenty. I've seen him play. I was at my friend's house the other night. He's a video coordinator for another organization. We watched all of Bradfield's at-bats, all of them, and all of his times on base. We even timed him from first to second. His speed is, for the sport of baseball, it is ridiculous. There's an excellent chance that he could be the fastest mover in the entire sport, minors and majors. But then you look at, does that really have value on a more or less station-to-station team? Then you have to look at where he was picked. It's kind of high. Then you have to look at, does he make consistent contact? And if yes, where does it go? And how hard does it get there for him to use his speed? These are a lot of ifs and a lot of specifics. My friends kind of laid out a scenario that the Orioles will be improved, maybe even go to the playoffs. And when rosters expand, if you are just dying for that stolen base in the playoffs, when Austin Hayes gets a double and you've got to have that runner at third, there might not be anyone better to do that than Bradfield. But then again, do you pick that player at 17 so early? So right now there's a lot of information, a lot of data, but it looks to me that that might not be the best use of draft capital at number 17 because right now you have so many ifs.
One more question about Bradfield. If you needed somebody, if Cedric Mullins got hurt this year, and I don't think Cedric Mullins is necessarily an Oriole the next 5 years or something like that, but if suddenly this year he got hurt for 2 or 3 weeks, is Bradfield's defense good enough alone, along with that speed component, that he could have a short stint in the major leagues and not embarrass himself and hurt you?
Absolutely, yes. And that's the part of the equation that might make the other side moot. If he's the fastest mover in the entire sport and offers a better than elite glove at a difficult position, well, then you know what? You might have something smart at 17. I'd probably honestly be inclined right now, if that scenario happened, to use Cowser. But after a couple camps, after the exhibition season, Bradfield's game might be at that level where he actually might be defensively ready.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. I know you haven't been at this for 10, 15 years. You know, you're relatively new at this in the last 3 to 4 years. Do you see a sense where Mike Elias should be going, geez whiz, I got so many guys here, you know, Norby, we haven't even mentioned Norby and Ortiz, who would be top 5 prospects in other organizations, that there's so many prospects that I'm going to bury some of them and I'm not going to get true value out of them? Is there ever a sense that you've got that going on?
I would say it's hard to ignore that possibility because there are so many good draft picks and there are so many not good draft picks that have been maximized and developed that, yes, it does look like there might be a couple guys who, when they reach their peak of being able to contribute, the highest they will have reached is double or triple A. And it's not their fault. It's because the population they're in features so many talented guys at the top of the depth chart. Norby is an excellent player. He added to his resume last year by going from a top-level second baseman to a very trustworthy left fielder. And nobody talks about him at all. If they do, he's the Orioles' #1 trade piece. What team or what organization is his career going to start with? I feel very differently. For the Orioles, at second base, he's the top of their organizational depth chart. So it makes me somewhat frustrated to think about it. But these guys being good players and being ready to contribute and ending their developmental track at AAA seems like a certain potential hazard that we have to look out for. Yeah, good. Another very excellent question.
So my question, Eric, was going to be, you know, is there one prospect that, you know, you think the Orioles they should definitely avoid? There's one prospect that you would be very, very disappointed if you saw them trade. Maybe a guy that, you know, not everyone knows about.
More
like
than
below,
Mayo? More than
yeah,
Mayo?
more than Mayo. So
okay.
Maybe a guy below like the AAA level. Like you mentioned Zach Sherwalter, definitely not being worth it in a Flaherty deal. Is there another guy that you would be extremely disappointed to see the Orioles part ways with in the lower levels of the farm league right now?
Absolutely, yes, there is, and that's an excellent question. This is somebody that I tracked from the Dominican, watched their whole lower minors career, and knew they would be supreme top level. I was right about that. That's catcher Samuel Basayo, who might, and in some scouting services and rankings, is the Orioles' #1 prospect, right behind Holiday. And I did notice, because I'm a little, like I said, obsessive, I did notice that Sam was not invited to the Orioles caravan, which makes me a little bit nervous. It would be a great opportunity for him to meet his fans and supporters. But this is a player, a hitter especially, who has the hands and wrists of a very high average hitter, a very high contact type hitter who drives the ball to all fields high exit velocities, super power. So, and he's a true catcher. He can probably stay behind the plate unless he outgrows it, because his best overall baseball skill is throwing. So if Sam ended up a Met or a Diamondback or a Philly, and we had to watch that,
you'd be
it
pissed.
would give me a migraine every time.
Where will he play this year, Basayo? Bowie to start?
Yeah, I think out of camp he's going to show enough people that even though he's 19, Double-A is going to be the type of challenge that he's going to be able to handle. He is an outstanding prospect. You talk about other guys being in the top. Any other team, he's their number one. They're one.
Mm-hmm.
He's an outstanding player. We cannot trade him if any Orioles executives are listening.
Last question I have for you today, and by the way, again, we're talking with Eric Garfield from Florida Prospects Report. He's going to increasingly be present on Pressbox Media this summer, and leading up into the summer, he'll be doing a Zoom with me just about every Thursday. Eric, Jackson Holliday, it seems now he's a foregone conclusion now. If I would have talked to you 2 months ago, I would have said, oh, no, he'll start the season at AAA and really get his feet wet, and by mid-May, June 1st, he'll be ready for the major leagues. Unless he falls flat on his face, he's gonna be up as a starting position player for the Orioles on opening day. If that is the case, where do you position him? Is he your second baseman, your shortstop, and then what does Henderson do?
I actually do not think he's going to break camp with the Orioles. I think they're going to let him get a bit bigger and a bit more high-level minor league seasoning. He really does not have a lot of at-bats.
Mm-hmm.
He does not have a lot of experience. And in the postseason/playoffs for the Tides last year, he was not a major contributor. I think the organization wants to get to a point where he just is. So it's going to be early, but it's not going to be right outside of camp. But to answer what you asked specifically.
Yeah, the position. Where does he start?
Yeah. He could be a high-caliber second baseman, but there's a distinct possibility that he could be a Gold Glove type at shortstop. So there's a bit of a conundrum with Gunnar Henderson, who's going to win the Rookie of the Year and seems to be a quote-unquote established shortstop, and Jackson Holliday. I do not know how you fix that problem, but just moving Gunnar over to third is not a long-term solution, from my opinion. He's just not as good there as he is at shortstop, where he might be among the best players in the entire sport. So tough thing for the front office to figure out. I'd rather move Holliday to second than move Henderson to third, but, that's above our pay grade.
All right. Hey, great talking to you. I'll reach out to you, and we'll talk next Thursday, okay?
Glad to do it. Happy Friday, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right. There he is, Eric Garfield. Your impressions of Eric?
I'm glad he's going to be part of part of the press box team moving forward. Definitely knowledgeable of each level of the Orioles farm system. So,
and somehow has these relationships with people, like the video guy for the Mariners, and doesn't give his name up, but or something like that. Unbelievable. We're about to be joined by somebody who is not traveling through the state of Indiana, and that is Josh Charles, my nephew. And is he joining us, Griffin? All right. Joining us right now is my nephew, Josh Charles. Josh, how are you?
Stan, how are you? I'm glad to hear that you're healthy and on the mend. Worried about you, so that makes me very happy.
All right. I'm very appreciative of the fact that you were worried about me. I really mean
Well,
that.
you sound good. You sound good on the air. You sound crisp. You sound on point. So I think you're back.
All right.
You're like Fast Eddie Felton. You're back.
I'm back. Fast Eddie Felton from the color. Wait a minute. What was that one called? The Color Green.
Color of Money and
Color of Money.
The Hustler.
Color of Money. Yep. The great Paul Newman played Fast Eddie Felson in The Hustler and The Color of Money. And, of course, Tom Cruise played the young buck in The Color of Money. Josh, first of all, how has your life changed from about 2 months ago when the strike got settled?
It's good. I mean, things are kind of slowly, gearing back up, and a couple of films one that's just coming out now called Memory with Jessica Chastain and Peter Sarsgaard with a really brilliant Mexican filmmaker named Michelle Franco, and that's getting released in a bunch of different cities around the country, and was at a bunch of festivals before that, and then a film called Mother's Instinct with Jessica and with Anne Hathaway. It's coming out in the next month or two, and then this TV show I did all spring and summer in Europe called The Veil. It'll be on FX starting in April. But other than that, that stuff that was already in the can before the strike, right now I'm sort of gearing back up and looking for the next one. But, certainly enjoying the time off to appreciate some football.
Yep. So before we get to football, to be honest with me, more exciting to work with Jessica Chastain, Peter Sarsgaard, Anne Hathaway, or Stan the Fan and Glenn Clark? And Griffin Bass?
Well, I mean, it's interesting because who asked me this? Somebody from the Ravens. Somebody from the Ravens asked me. They were like, "You're such a fan. Would you rather win an Oscar or like we win the Super Bowl?" And I'm like, that's a tough call. Honestly, I think I'd rather the Ravens win the Super Bowl. That's kind of how I'm built.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Obviously, I enjoy working with all those guys. I know you're joking in the question, but I love talking sports and obviously love you and Press Box and love what Glenn does, and I listen all the time. So, this is an exciting year for Baltimore. I don't have to tell you, just what a great year in sports for all of us. And listening to what you guys were just talking about, really interesting dilemma potentially of what you do with Jackson and Gunner in terms of the short third, second. Equation.
Well, I threw an added context to it. I asked a former Major League general manager a year and a half ago. I said and he was somebody that was very interested in drafting Holiday #1 for the Mets when the Mets had the #9 pick, and a year before it looked like Holiday would be in the 7 to 10 range, and then of course he shot up to be #1. I asked him if he could play center field, and he said, without a question, he's a Gold Glove caliber center fielder. So throw that into the mix too. So,
what do you think? Would he do any of that right now, or is he pretty locked in just being shortstop?
My mouth is agape a little bit because Eric Garfield just opened my eyes because everybody the last 6-7 weeks has been sort of making now the assumption that Jackson will be on the opening day roster. It does make more sense to season him a little bit overall, because seasoning him a month or 6 weeks wouldn't necessarily take away the chance of him winning the Rookie of the Year, and still gaining that draft pick compensation.
Sure.
Let's turn our attention to football. And
yeah, man.
I know it's odd to have the bye for the Baltimore Ravens because it seems like we always have to go through the most difficult, gauntlet possible. Is it fun to relax this 1 week and see everybody else kind of fumble the ball?
I'm enjoying it. I mean, it's not like, I think for all of us, it's a unique place to be in because we are used to being the underdog and not being the pursued, but being the pursuer and the one hunting and just sort of, scrapping away. So yeah, we're top dog right now, waiting for everybody, and it's a different position, but I'm trying to change I was saying this to Glenn. I was on with Glenn and Rita last week, and I was saying I'm trying to sort of zen out a little bit more about it because I'm usually very like, oh, what if this? And I want to play this. And I don't want to play. And I know a lot of us are like that, fans, not just in Baltimore, across, all cities. I'm trying to be more relaxed. Like, yeah, listen, it's playoffs. Anything can happen. We lose, sure. But I feel that as concerned as I may be about certain aspects of certain teams, those teams are going to be equally concerned about us. And I think truly we don't get to the Super Bowl if we beat ourselves. and I think that really is what's going to happen with this team. Like if this team plays the way they're capable of playing, they tighten up the rush D a little bit. I just don't see it. I don't see it happen. I see us going. I really do. And it doesn't mean we will, but that's how I feel right now. So, and I'm not normally that kind of optimistic. I'm always more of a glass half full kind of guy.
Well, you're a glass. You're jittery with your glass, whether it's full or half full or half empty. You're jittery
half
with
empty,
it.
Yeah, no, I'm jittery. I'm a jittery glass drinker. Water drinker. Anyway, I don't know. I'm excited, I'm really. I'm trying. What I guess I'm saying is, I feel like the Ravens have shown us this year, like time and time again, that like when the chips are on the table, they have risen to the occasion and then some. And so they've shown us who they are, and they've shown us even in their losses who they are. And in all those losses, and I guess you could make the one exception, and Glenn feels this, and we talked about it, is the second Cleveland game in the second half of that, where Cleveland, really kind of took it to us.
Yeah.
I think I challenged him a bit on the idea that they imposed their will on us. I think they just matched our intensity, and Lamar threw that pick, and that certainly didn't help us in that situation. But other than that, the other games we beat ourselves. I mean, the Indianapolis game was a mess. I was at that game. We all know that was just we just gave that one away. We dropped 8 passes, 4 in the end zone against Pittsburgh the first time. I'm going to just write off the last game because who knows what that was. So it really comes down to that Cleveland game. And even in that, we were in command, had a lead, and you got to give it to them. Cleveland's a tough team. And divisional opponents, those are different games. So I feel like just sort of cautiously optimistic about the Ravens this postseason. I think it's a different team. I'm not worried about the rust or any of that. I think this team just seems so locked in and focused that it's. I'm just more excited to see how they're gonna show up.
Yeah, I mean, I largely agree with you, Josh. I am trying to be cautiously optimistic as well. Realizing that it is the NFL and anything can happen. But that being said, I know you said you're trying to mellow out this weekend, but you got to be rooting for something to happen, right? Like, would you be? Are you leaning one way or the other? Like, if the Bills lost and the Bills got knocked out by the Steelers, how would you feel?
Well, it's interesting because I talked to some other people that are real football knowledgeable, pundits, and saying, Buffalo is the one team, and obviously maybe, Pittsburgh, Cleveland too, just because of the defense, that could be challenging for us. But really, Buffalo is the one that could give us run for money, and I understand why. They got a good defense. They've got a good rushing attack. That's one of our maybe weaker points, if I would say. We're in middle of the pack, right, on rush D. So I feel like, yeah, you'd like to see them go. But at the same time, like, you're going to have to play 2 games, and they're going to be good teams. You know what I mean? They're all in the playoffs. And I feel like just whoever it is, I am going to always be nervous, but I'm also, like, I'm excited about this team. That's a unique thing. I'm more excited than nervous,
right? If
that makes sense, because I feel like they're capable of just really doing something special. But with that said, I would not be mad about another crack at Pittsburgh because, as a Ravens fan, it sickens me that they've won 7 of 8 and they swept us this year. And even though we played,
the fans are trying to hold it over us, that they're the real AFC. Femi mentioned it earlier this week, that they're the real, since they went 5-1 in the AFC North. How would you feel if Joe Flacco and the Browns came into Baltimore next week?
I mean, I think that's possible too. I mean, I think that's a great storyline. Obviously, everybody will run with it. I think the thing that's not getting discussed enough about that, and I think I saw a quote of Lamar. First of all, like many, I love Joe. Yeah. I mean, one of the great dudes, right? I mean, I've got a picture of me and him. My dad just sent me to remind me after the Super Bowl in New Orleans, and we walked back after the game, and they had the whole line of tons of people walking back from the stadium to their hotels. And as we walked up the hotel, the bus of the team was sort of coming in. I just yelled out to Joe, and he said, "Hey!" And we took a picture, and I looked like a 6-year-old. I'm just he's so tall, and I'm next to him, and I just got this just shit-eating grin on my face. But I love that guy, and I'm so happy for him. And he's so he's a gamer, man. He's out there and he's balling. And I reached out to him and just tell him how happy I was for him. And I said, quite honestly, like, couldn't be more thrilled for you. But come playoffs, like this love ends quickly. Because I know what he's capable of. But I also want to take that in perspective. Is he balling? Yes. Have they played a lot of great teams during that stretch as good as us? No, not at all. So I'm not nervous about that. And the one thing I don't think we're talking about enough is what Lamar has to say about that. A lot of the focus is on Joe and Joe coming back, and that's all great. It's a great story. But what about Lamar? I think Lamar is going to have something to say about who's going to come out on top of that matchup between those two QBs. And, as much as I love Joe, Lamar is just is on fire this year. And the guy is just making plays, and he's making it happen. And there's just something in his eyes and his intensity, maturity. It feels like, it's all the cliches, but it just feels like everything's slowed down for him. You watch him, and he's reading, he's running, he's moving. He's just, as an actor, you say, he's in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Like all you want to be as an actor is in the moment, right? You just want to be. You don't need to do anything. You just be and react and listen. And I feel like that is what Lamar Jackson is doing right now as a quarterback. He is in the moment. Call it locked in, call it whatever you want. Dude is just, he's in it. And I love seeing that. And I'm just excited, man. I think I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but I'm excited about the possibilities.
I think it's interesting to talk about the Jackson Flacco situation or dynamic, because I think we've got an exact same dynamic with the Goff and Matthew Stafford game, the Lion-Ram game, which I think is the most interesting game of the weekend. Do you have a thought or two on that game?
Yeah, I do. I actually, look, first of all, I love Dan Campbell. I love that guy. Love his style. And how can you not pull for the Lions? I mean, they're a great story. They're playing good ball. But I think the Rams are my sneaky pick to go very far in the NFC, and I could see them.
I think the winner of that. I think the winner of that game. I think the winner of that game could be the sneaky pick. The Lions or the Rams.
Either one of them could be. It's hard for me to see anybody beating San Francisco right now. Certainly not Philly or Dallas. I mean, they just had their way with them.
Right.
And the Rams game at the end of the season, I know they played earlier, but at the end of the season, that was a meaningless game. But I think the Rams got that. They got that mojo with those two receivers in the running game and with Donald, of course. So I don't know. Like I'm much as I'm pulling emotionally for the Lions, I want to also see who can give San Francisco the best run for their money, because I don't want these guys just cakewalking into the Super Bowl. But I agree that I think the AFC seems like it's stacked up a little harder for the top seed, because you look at – I'd love the crack at Pittsburgh, right? But let's say likely Buffalo is going to wipe Pittsburgh out, I think. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to win that game. I actually think Houston is a team that could beat Cleveland. And I know Cleveland's favored, I think, right, by 2 points.
Cleveland's favored by 2.5 points, yeah.
Yeah, but I actually think the last time they played, they beat him, but Stroud was on concussion protocol. He didn't play. And I think that guy's just he's a game changer. He's rookie of the year. I mean, so I don't know. At home, a pumped-up crowd. They got a good defense. And C.J. Stroud is a big difference maker there. And I don't see that game. I see that game going either way. So I could see us facing Houston. And I could also listen. I think it's hard to see Miami going in to beating KC. I mean, I don't think any of us think that will happen. It could happen. Yeah. I mean, Miami has just been getting it handed to them. They're due to have a turnaround. I don't know who they're getting back, Griff and Stan. I mean, do you know if any of the people are coming back? They're running back. I mean, is he going to be playing?
Mostert and Waddle are both questionable, so it sounds like they're actually true game time decisions.
Right.
But I mean, Tyreek Hill should be playing. Achane will play. Tua will play. But I mean, yeah.
And the running back
guys,
for Kansas City is going to play.
Unit.
What's his name? The running back, the
Pacheco?
rookie. Pacheco.
No, sorry.
Yeah, Pacheco.
For the Chiefs?
Yeah, Isaiah Pacheco, right.
Yeah,
he's going to play.
Yeah, not Manny.
Hey Josh.
Manny Machado.
Josh, before I let you go, because we're running a tad late, I don't want to drag you into a mess, but one of the things I'm most proud about you
is
Josh
Charles, Stan. We'll go as long as Josh wants to go.
Well, that's true. That's true. But seriously, one of the things I'm most proud about you is not your work. It's the quality of human being you are. I'd just like to get your comment on this Jimmy Kimmel Aaron Rodgers blow up because I have a feeling where you're going to go with this, but I've already said my piece today. But your thoughts?
I such an interesting thing. Like I've never met Aaron Rodgers, and
right.
And I don't have any personal animus towards him, and he could obviously give two craps what I think about him, and that's fine because I feel the same about him. But what I will say is this: there has not ever been a player who has, in my eyes, now I'm not talking about the world or anything, just for me, who I didn't know, but I always kind of loved. Like, I always loved Aaron Rodgers. Like I loved how he handled the whole Brett Favre thing. I loved that he just seemed sort of low key and kind of had this sort of dark sense of humor. And he was just obviously such a good ball player. And I don't know, he just had a vibe about him. And I was like, that's a cool dude, you know?
Right.
And I cannot believe in the last, 2 years, how far he has fallen in my books, you know? Just from the whole ridiculousness, you know, Jimmy said it better than anybody, of just pretending he's a scientist and this and that or whatever, and how he handled that. And then what he was saying about Kimmel, I just think he's a douche. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I have nothing more to say other than he seems like.
Don't sugarcoat it, Josh.
You know?
Don't sugarcoat it. Now, I thought I had a feeling you. I had a feeling.
And I think I agree with you though. I watched the thing. I him sort of half say, "Well, I didn't say that. And I don't want anybody." And he used a curse word to say that in my name. Of course, I wasn't implying that. Of course you were implying that.
Yeah, exactly.
What else were you doing? We're not idiots.
Right.
That's what you were implying, and just man up and say, look, like you said, I was pissed off. He rubbed me wrong, and I was shooting back. I don't actually think he's a pedophile, or having sex with underage girls. But, that stuff in the world we live in today has real life consequences.
Yeah.
I don't think Jimmy's putting a lot of flavor on that. I don't know Jimmy very well, but there are people that read that shit and now think, he's eating children in pizza places or whatever. And I'm sure he's getting all that. I've gotten a touch of that from some people, of anything I may have said. And, you get a touch of that quickly. And it's pretty scary, man, when that stuff comes at you, because there are insane people out there. So the guy's fallen down in my books. I mean, he's still a great player.
Yeah.
But I also think his selfishness this year, the audacity that he was going to come back from that injury that put the Jets in some sort of weird holding pattern.
Yeah.
Why didn't the Jets get Flacco?
Right.
What?
Right.
Why
They had him.
They
had him last year, I think. Was it 2 years ago?
But why didn't they grab him immediately after week one when he hurt his leg to have him be there again?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love Joe D, but why didn't they do that?
Yeah.
It really felt like Zach. Listen, I got a Zach Wilson downtown rookie card graded. I'm pulling for Zach. I want that thing to get back up to what it was when I got it. But I think that ship has sailed.
Yeah, it sounds like that might be a coaster moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I got it. My son got it. Rocco got it in a box. It wasn't like we didn't like.
Was he excited?
Cool.
Was he excited he got it?
At the time, I'm telling you this truthfully. At the time, I think I talked about this with Glenn. At the time he got that card, Zach was playing really well. It was like, holy crap, we just scored on this retail box. We got a downtown Zach Wilson. I'm getting that crap graded. We went and got it graded. I looked online. They were selling for $1,000. I'd be lucky to get $150 for that car right now.
Right.
I mean, lucky on the best day.
As Griffin said, it's an expensive coaster now. Yeah.
Pretty much. But I've got, we've really, and I was thinking of you because I really got into collecting cards a lot this year with Rocco, and there's a really cool, if anybody's listening that's into collecting cards, Topps Black and White, the Topps Chrome Black and White edition. They released these boxes. There's only like 30 cards in a box. But they're these just beautiful black and white images, and there's all kinds of parallels and autos. And I got actually a really cool Grayson black and white auto, Grayson Rodriguez, in one of the boxes. And I've literally gotten, I got so obsessed with them because I just love the images. Like, check them out online; they're beautiful. And I've got the whole set, a base set, not all of the, but I got the whole base set. And I'm looking at things online. You can buy these poster, right? Like that has the slots for like 100 cards. Saw one on Etsy, but it was like $300 and something bucks, which I didn't really want to spend that much on a poster. I like the idea of like putting them all on a poster that you can remove them in the back and showing them that way because they're beautiful. Anyway, I thought of you a lot during that because, you know, he's so into baseball and so into the stats and wanting to know and talks out of his butt half the times. I don't even know what he's saying, but he makes me think he does. He's like, you know, oh, that person, this, they did that. I was like, what? No, they didn't.
Now, you told me
like,
something.
oh, okay.
You told me something the other day that kind of shocked me, or not shocked me. You said, how old's Rocco now? 9 or 8?
He's 9. Yeah.
9.
He's 9.
You're
He's
saying
9 in December.
you're saying he's starting to talk about fantasy sports?
Yes, this is something that now you got to understand, I got out of fantasy sports. I was really hardcore into fantasy football.
20 years ago. You were big time 20 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, I won the NFL Network, first celebrity, whatever they did that year. I won the trophy that year, the first year, and I came in second the next year because of Brett Favre. He killed me in that game. But I will tell you, because he was playing the Bears D, Jeff Garland had the Bears D, and Favre threw like 5 picks in that game. And that was the only reason I lost and didn't go back to back. But I stopped when Rocco was born because I was taking so much of my life. I had a league that was in LA, even though I was living back in New York, and the guys were really serious and I was serious, and I was like, I just can't do this anymore. And I miss it. And I never was that into baseball, only through you, right?
Yeah.
Because you know all the stuff about baseball. I don't. I always just tag on your coattails and sort of, enjoy the experience of us just being able to connect about it. But this year, I think he really wants to do it, and I would love him to do it with you, get in on that league, and just to be a part of it, so he can look, talk to you about it, understand, because he really does have that kind of brain. Like he's asking me consistently. Like I was telling some of the scouts from the Ravens, I was like, he's asking me for like Ravens, scouting books. Like he wants to know about like who the guys are that are coming up, and he's got that kind of memory and into it. So. He could go in that direction. He loves that part of the game.
Well, we can certainly get him on our as part of our team. Send him the reports of the stats, so he starts to get the feel of stats and those kind of things like that.
Understand?
Yeah,
exactly. I think it really. It was a big deal.
It doesn't come cheap. My time doesn't come cheap, though, Josh. You know that.
Well, of course, that's an understatement. Of course, I know that. I was never expecting you to do any of it for free. I mean, we can work that out offline. But I do think that, given that he's
my great nephew. He's my great nephew.
Cut me a deal. Maybe you can cut me a deal.
Yeah, I will. I'll cut you the family. I'll cut you the family discount. I'll give you the family discount.
I hope so.
Yeah. Hey,
who do you want to face? Who do you want to face Sunday? Who do you want to face next Saturday or Sunday? Griffin. And who do you want? You got your choice.
I think we're going to face either Houston or Cleveland. I think we're going to face one of those two teams. And being honest, I'm not that afraid of the Cleveland Browns. The Houston Texans, with this guy Stroud, I think he's a special talent. I'm not taking away from Joe Flacco, but I think our defense will be able to stop either of those teams. So I'm not really that nervous, but I think we'll face one of those two teams. Griffin, who do you think we'll face next week?
I also think it's the winner of that game. I think I would feel slightly better going against the Texans just because the Ravens do fare well against rookie quarterbacks. Obviously, CJ Stroud's not your normal rookie quarterback. And, who knows, maybe he'll have some sort of revenge, sort of factor since the Ravens beat him week 1. But, the Texans don't, they don't overly concern me too much. They can't look over the Texans by any means. Right. But, I guess in an ideal world, probably the Steelers. Like, the Steelers just don't.
Josh wants to play the Steelers.
Yeah, I think the Ravens would have plenty of motivation going into that one. I think Drew Forster tweeted it last week. Yeah, he said, if they face the Steelers, he said if the Ravens Steelers play again, it'll be 48-10 Ravens. So I'm not sure if it'll be that score, but I do
agree with him.
Yeah, I know. Like I think.
No, but I agree. I think that would satisfy. That would satisfy two things. We can get Buffalo out and get that revenge game against Pittsburgh, and it will be a physical game. And I don't know if it'll be 48-10 either, but I think we win. I absolutely think we win. I think
the team I'm most nervous about playing would be Buffalo. you know.
Yeah.
And I know we won't play. We won't play them next week.
I think in my heart, I feel that it's probably going to be. I feel like Joe Flacco's coming back to Baltimore next week.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is going to happen.
Hey, Josh, I'm not the booking agent. I'm not the booking guy on this show, but any shot we could book you for next Friday to do 15 minutes?
Yeah, man.
All right.
Always. I'm always around and happy. I may be in town, so maybe I could even come in.
Ooh.
If I'm there, because that'll be the weekend of the game, right? So I'll be planning to try to come in. Do we know when are we going to find out if we're Saturday or Sunday after this weekend?
They will probably announce it
Sunday night. I would think.
I would think.
I'm thinking the Ravens are going to play Saturday. I have a feeling.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Don't they normally put the 1 seed? I mean, one of the 1 seeds plays on Saturday. I guess.
Typically,
I'm guessing we're going to play Saturday night. Is my guess. That will be like the marquee game of the 2 Saturday games. That's my feeling.
Oh, man.
I agree.
All
How
right.
do you guys feel about this Peacock thing? What's your take on that? Did you talk about that earlier? I didn't hear.
Well, first of all, Peacock is am I right? It's free on my Comcast, right?
If it is,
not
then
free
it is.
for me.
Yeah. Well.
It's not free for you. Okay. Look,
my understanding is you have to pay. You have to pay if you don't have Peacock.
Yeah.
And you want to watch this game.
You have to pay for it.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now you can cancel it. So you can subscribe for a month and cancel it.
Right.
I think it's $5.99. You basically got to pay $6
$7
to watch
game.
this
$6 game. Yeah.
This is what they've been moving toward for years. This is what they've been moving.
I don't like it. It makes me sick to my stomach. It really does, man. I just think it's gross, man. I don't know. I pay close to $400 a year to watch the Sunday ticket.
Right.
Some of those games aren't on, and then this year
they got to screw you beyond the
Chargers game.
Yeah, I'm not a big.
Going to watch that game one night, and I was like, why can't I watch this game? I was like, it's on Peacock.
Right.
I'm like, what? I don't even want to watch this game. I'm not going to go pay for this game. And I feel this way, tomorrow night I'm going to see a play. I'm not watching that game. They could take it and stick it, like Charlie Ekman used to say, where the sun don't shine.
Where the sun don't shine.
I'm not about that.
All right. He is Josh Charles, my nephew, and excellent actor and most knowledgeable sports fan. Josh, thanks for joining us.
Love you, Unc. All right, Griff, talk to you guys.
All right.
Have a good weekend.
All right. Well, we booked a guest for next Friday. All right. Pressbox urges you to drink a beer or 2 in honor of Tony Siragusa starting this Monday, January 15th, and actually I think it's like tomorrow night or Sunday, I think it'll be available at Guilford Hall Brewery. They're releasing Goose Flights, a delicious lager to support Goose's medical transportation jet company. As many of you know, the Goose Flight Foundation mission, now run by Tony's kids, charitably flies needy patients to emergency treatment. You can buy Goose Flight Lager exclusively at Glory Days Grill or Guilford Hall Brewery. $2 of every purchase goes to the cause. Raise a glass to Tony and support this great foundation. Go to PressBoxOnline.com to learn all about it. Toast the late Tony Siragusa with Goose Flights Lager from Guilford Hall Brewery and support the Goose Flights Foundation mission, available starting this Monday at Guilford Hall Brewery and all Maryland Glory Days Grills locations. Go to PressBoxOnline.com to learn more. And one last word from me here before we take the break. Use the promo code GlennClark23 or StanCharles23 when you sign up at Superbook, and you'll receive up to $250 in a same-day first bet match. Win or lose. Download the Superbook app or visit superbook.com to take advantage of the great offer today. All right, there you have it.
All right, we'll be winding things down when we come back. We'll have Tidbit and Tubular.
And we have to do our picks, right?
You and I will.
Yeah.
I'll be sitting in for Glenn this week. But that'll be after Glenn Clark Radio. So you'll catch that later.
All right.
Hey, it's Jeremy Kahn. This postseason, bet in person at the Green Turtle Bet Park Sportsbooks with locations in Canton and in Towson, and enjoy the best in-class sports wagering experience at their state-of-the-art facilities, bringing an unmatched sports betting thrill.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
There's so much focus on sports betting these days, but I want to talk about an area that nobody wants to gamble on, where you choose to go out and spend your hard-earned dollars to eat. The Costas Inn is no gamble at all. The quality on their menu is outstanding, and the value is off the charts with a great and varied list of specials Monday through Friday. And the staples of the menu, whether it's salads, burgers, fish, they're all fantastic. And I haven't even mentioned the crabs or crab cakes yet. So check out the menu for yourself at CostasInn.com. When choosing a place to dine, never gamble on the food you put in your belly. The Costas Inn at 4100 North Point Boulevard, or call 410-477-1975 for reservations and your steamed crab orders.
6 chicken tenders made from fresh, never frozen Royal Farms world-famous chicken, a family-sized order of Western fries, honey mustard dipping sauce, and a 2-liter bottle of Dr. Pepper. It's Royal Farms' new Tucker's Tenders Meal. It's Justin Tucker's favorite, and at only $19.99, it'll be your favorite meal, too. The new Tucker's Tenders Meal, available only at Royal Farms. Now you can kick back, relax, and eat like a champion. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
What company has the expertise to make your home healthier by purifying your air and killing all viruses, allergens, and bacteria? A.J. Michaels, Heating and Air Conditioning in Baltimore and Annapolis, ajmichaels.com.
Come for a game, stay for everything else. Book an unforgettable fall getaway in Charm City. Enjoy only in Baltimore festivals, mouthwatering eats, and endless entertainment. Treat yourself to a staycation in the heart of downtown, or try one of the city's many charming neighborhood hotels. And don't miss out on packages for free parking, breakfast, and more. Plan your stay at baltimore.org/hotels.
Don't forget about Project Game Day after every Ravens game this season. It's kind of like this show, except Rita's also there, so I actually think it's pretty good. But hey, you're already here now, so why don't you go ahead and keep listening to GCR.
All right, we are back on GCR for a few remaining moments. And Griffin, what do we got?
We've got Tidbit and Tubular coming up. Tidbit, you want to tell us? Tidbit is going to be brought to you today by you, Stan, actually, because you earlier this week you had a good chat with Ross and Luke. You guys were talking Orioles spring training, or Orioles off season rather.
Yeah,
leading up to spring training.
And we will do much the same this Monday night. And next Thursday we'll have Eric Garfield from the Florida Prospects Report with more on Oriole prospects as we get ready for the 2024 season.
Yes, and you can find all those videos on the Pressbox YouTube page under the Videos tab, so make sure you check those out. Tidbit-wise, there wasn't a whole lot of sports action last night. We didn't mention it, but Towson did win last night as well. UMBC, they lost a close one to Vermont. But also in action, UCLA, they lost big. Because, we were talking about the Terps, but UCLA has, we're kind of lucky we're not UCLA. They've had a very, very poor start to the season. Seems like it's not going to turn around either. But yesterday, the Lakers lost, so did UCLA. And they lost by a combined 60 points. That is the first time that's ever happened for the Lakers and UCLA on the same day to lose by a combined 60 points. Things not going too well in Southern California on the hardwood.
That's interesting.
Yes. We did see the first team All-Pros were announced earlier this week. Second team was also just announced actually a couple minutes ago. Did you see who the Ravens All-Pro selections were, Stan?
No, I have not seen those.
The first teamers. Do you want to take a stab at who the first
Roquan Smith.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson.
One
more.
Mark Andrews.
Not Mark Andrews. I guess he probably.
One more from the offense?
No.
Defensive player, Mr. Hamilton.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Kyle Hamilton. Roquan Smith and Lamar Jackson are your first teamers. They also had 3 second-teamers announced about 10 minutes ago.
I'm going to guess Matabuke.
Matabuke is one of them.
Patrick Queen.
Patrick Queen is another.
And I'm going to say that what's his name? The guy who's Davian Clowney.
That's a good.
But it's wrong.
He probably deserves
Whenever
it.
you hear that it's a good guess, it's wrong. Yeah.
He is an offensive player, the third second teamer.
Linderbaum.
He probably should have been. It's not Linderbaum.
Is it a lineman?
It's not a lineman.
It's not a lineman.
Well, you know what? You can consider him a lineman sometimes.
Patrick Ricard.
Patrick Ricard is the third second teamer for the Ravens. So,
and what are they doing this year with that game?
Are their
daughters playing this year?
Yeah. These are the all pros, so these are just like, these are the best of the best guys. I think media
this is
voted
not the
or
Pro
players.
Bowl yet.
Yeah, not the Pro
That's
Bowl.
the game where their daughters are all going to play.
That might be what we're going to see soon. Yeah. I think I don't think you're too far off.
It's just
on that.
The concept of a player going out and playing seriously. I know your preseason games are meaningless essentially, but the concept you're going to play like an all-star game in a sport where you could
kind of worked, I guess, when they did it in Hawaii. So it was like you at least had guys that wanted to go because it was like a nice vacation, a nice paid for.
I'm not
vacation.
giving up my potential earnings over,
Well, also, I mean,
look, if the league wants to insure me, for free, that they'll insure me against $100 million of lost income. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not your team
shouldn't even. I don't want Lamar Jackson playing in a Pro Bowl.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're just going to continue with what they're doing now: flag football and no contact. They'll play dodgeball and Madden. We'll just watch Kyler Murray play Madden.
Really,
against Hollywood Brown.
I think my idea's got the daughters playing.
What if they don't have daughters? What if they have daughters that don't?
They don't deserve to be on the.
A lot of these guys are young guys. Some don't even have
kids. There's an incentive now to having a daughter.
Oh,
you incentivize them.
You don't get to make the Pro Bowl if you don't have a daughter. If you don't have, it has to be a daughter.
Yeah.
Joe Flacco will be in action this weekend. He is 14th all time on the quarterbacks wins, all-time quarterback playoff wins.
Okay.
Do you know who number one is? It's pretty. You should know.
Tom Brady.
Tom Brady is in fact far and away number one. 35 playoff wins.
Right.
Who's number two?
Number two.
16 playoff wins.
John Elway.
Not John Elway. He is tied for third with 14.
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre is a little bit further down. He is tied for sixth with 13.
Troy Aikman.
Not Troy Aikman. Aikman also has 11. He has one more win than Joe Flacco.
Okay.
Top 13.
Not Phil Simms.
Not Phil Simms. Not sure how many.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I could go on for days.
You could go on for days, and I want you to.
No, you don't.
Joe Montana, 16 playoff wins.
That's idiotic that I didn't get that.
Yeah. Well, it's been a late show where we've gone 2.5 hours now. Peyton Manning, Steve Young, and John Elway all have 14 wins. Terry Bradshaw also 14 wins in the playoffs.
Okay.
So that'll do it for tidbit today. We'll get into Totally Tubular. Before we do that, Stan, you want to remind us about the latest edition of Press Box and where you can get it?
Yeah, our annual best of issue of Press Box is available now, celebrating the Orioles as the team of the year and manager Brandon Hyde as our Mo Gabba Sports Person of the Year. Inside the issue, we celebrate the top people, performances, and moments of the last 12 months in local sports. Pick up the best of issue at your neighborhood Royal Farms or any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find Pressbox, or read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com.
All right, so it is a weekend. This means that there are a ton of sports in action, so maybe I should just direct you directly to GlennClarkRadio.com for the full Totally Tubular rundown, but I'll try to get through some of the highlights. College basketball tonight is really the only thing going on. No local teams in action. Nebraska, Iowa play on Big Ten Network at 9:30. Minnesota, Indiana in action. DePaul, Villanova, 8:30 on FS1. Following Minnesota, Indiana, Boise State, Nevada round out the triple header on FS1 of college hoops. Dayton, Duquesne at 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Rice, South Florida at 7. NBA action on ESPN, Kings Sixers at 7:30, Pelicans Nuggets at 10 o'clock. NHL Network will have Predators Star, and the PGA Sony Open roars on all weekend on the Golf Channel. To Saturday, tomorrow, Newcastle United and Manchester City on NBC. That'll be the appetizer to Browns Texans at 4:30 on NBC. 4:30 on NBC is Browns Texans when we see Joe Flacco and C.J. Stroud square off. Then, exclusively on Peacock, Dolphins Chiefs at 8 o'clock. Gotta assume we'll see plenty of Taylor Swift in the crowd. Hopefully she's able to cheer Travis Kelce on enough to get the Chiefs a win or not. We'll see. It's supposed to be frigid, very, very cold. One of the coldest games ever, they're saying, in Kansas City. So maybe Taylor Swift won't be there. We want to protect her. Stan, don't want her to get too cold. Don't want her to get this cold and flu. Yeah. So maybe she won't be there. That would be highly disappointing for Peacock.
She'll be there.
Oh, she'll be there. Okay. She loves Travis Kelce that much. All the local teams in action tomorrow afternoon. ESPN Plus will be UMBC, UMass Lowell. Navy Lafayette play at 2 on ESPN Plus. Loyola plays at 5 against Boston University. All of that on ESPN Plus. Oh, of course, Magomed Ankalaev, Johnny Walker, UFC Fight Night, UFC first card of the year. Pretty exciting. I'm excited for this one. I'll have to have the 2 TV set up for playoff football and UFC all tomorrow night. Johnny Walker, Magomed Ankalaev is the headliner on UFC. That'll be on ESPN Plus as well. Flow Hoops will have Towson Northeastern. Stan, of course, I don't assume you didn't see this, but I was at the Towson game last night. They just keep having problems with this arena for some reason. The shot clock scoreboard on one end of the court became out of sync with the rest of the clock. Some at the 15-minute mark of the second half. So they went into a half-hour delay while they switched out basketball hoops so that they could get a working shot clock on Stony Brook's basket in the second half. It was,
Okay. Did the
was
crowd
tough.
hang in there?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, we did. We hung out for most of it, and of course it went into overtime as well. It was disappointing because the game was moving at a really good pace up until this delay, and then it went into overtime, ended closer to 10 o'clock. So.
Oh, good.
Shout out to the Tiger fans, the Tiger faithful. As Towson did defeat Stony Brook, so they'll play Northeastern tomorrow afternoon. Umis, Maryland Eastern Shore, and Howard, they play at 4 on Howard's website. Big Ten Network will have Northwestern, Wisconsin, Penn State, Purdue. The rest of all the college basketball slate. Go to glennclarkradio.com for tomorrow afternoon. Just checking for any more highlights. Yeah, a lot of college basketball. Wizards play the Hawks at 7:30 tomorrow night on Monumental. And then on Sunday, Steelers-Bills at 1 o'clock. Fox will have Packers-Cowboys at 4:30, and then Rams-Lions on NBC at 8 o'clock. And Maryland plays Illinois at 2 o'clock on Sunday on Big Ten Network. That might not be that based on how last night went. I'm not really loving the Terps' chances, but you never know. But going on the road in the Big Ten is tough. Mount St. Mary's plays Iona at 1 o'clock on Sunday on ESPN Plus. Delaware UNC Wilmington will be televised. CBS Sports Network at 4 p.m. on Sunday. So if you don't feel like watching Packers Cowboys, definitely go check out some CAA hoops. Non-sports wise, I'll try to fly through it. Stan, I'm trying to think of what you might be interested in. Lift. There's a movie on Netflix called Lift. Kevin Hart is leading a heist.
Oh, I thought he was a Lyft driver.
No, that might be better. It's like a serious role, and he's leading a heist. They're stealing a plane, and it looks very serious. Like I didn't even see any funny quips in the trailer. So if you're a big Kevin Hart guy, go ahead and check it out.
Okay.
New episode of Reacher on Prime Video. I love that show.
That's a great show.
Yeah.
So an episode drops tonight.
Yeah, or I think it dropped last night, so it's already available.
Really?
Now. Yeah. As soon as
I can go home and watch it.
As soon as we end the show, we can go ahead and turn it on.
Could you move it along a little bit?
Self-Reliance. This movie looks a little interesting. It's on Hulu. Jake Johnson. I like Jake Johnson, but he gets recruited by Andy Samberg to be hunted for 30 days, and if he survives, he wins $1 million. And the catch is that no one can kill him unless he's alone. So like he gets friends with Anna Kendrick or something and tries to get her to like hang out with him the whole time, so that way he's never alone.
Never alone.
Never alone. But
that might have worked for me over the years as a means to keep a girlfriend.
Those are the highlights. The rest go to glennclarkradio.com. So totally to the rundown. Sorry to make it long-winded.
Quite a rundown.
It's the weekend. I want to make sure everybody knows what's on.
Glenn
on
will
TV.
Glenn's got get a load of this day. He gets back on Sunday. Monday he's got the morning show on 105.7 The Fan, and then he's coming here.
That is my understanding at this moment as well. We'll see if it all hangs in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he lucked out with the Ravens being on bye, so it wasn't necessarily a much needed weekend of his presence. So so he'll be rearing and ready to go for the Ravens playoff run. That's for sure.
Sounds interesting. Interesting.
Big thank you to all of today's guests. Of course, we had Scott Garceau in the first hour. Talked some Orioles. Talked a good bit of football with Scott as well.
That was a surprise that we ended up talking football with.
And we talked to Eric Garfield about the Orioles and their prospects, and of course Josh Charles stopped by. So we'll get all of those.
We're missing somebody. Both Smolka didn't.
Well, yeah, Bo couldn't make it. We'll get all of those up.
This is not like a Mike Tirico thing now. That Bo.
Well, I guess we'll find out next week because we typically talk to him on Fridays. So if he's unable to do next Friday,
but it would be
have a real case.
It would be whether he doesn't do it when Glenn's not here.
Oh yeah. That's a good point. We'll get
catch my drift.
I do catch your drift.
Okay. Hey, thanks for walking me through this. All right.
Thank you for walking me through it, Stan. Appreciate you stepping in this week.
All right.
And putting on some good shows. We'll get all those interviews up on the Greatest Hits section of the. Stan?
Archives.
Perfect.
The archives.
Perfect. Any other closing thoughts for the weekend, Stan?
No. None whatsoever.
All right. Peace out.
All right.